Okay, sorry about the delay there. Had a bit of a Iron Brew related disaster. I'm not joking. How's it going, guys? How's it going, guys? Yeah, Nordic here. Um, we should be live now. If anybody could let me know if the audio is okay, and I mean it this time because I'm actually using a different laptop. The laptop that I normally use to do these live streams is also the one I normally do my recordings on. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why this is exactly because I'm using the same microphone, but for whatever reason, when I use this microphone on this laptop to do recordings, the audio doesn't sound right. It sounds like really echoey and my voice doesn't sound as masculine and all that crap. It sounds like I'm recording in the bathroom. So yeah, if anybody could let me know. Like, does it sound any different to how it normally sounds? Just yeah, let me know if it does. Yeah, I'm a little bit amped up for this one. So yeah, what was I talking about? Iron brew related disaster. Um, yeah, bloody ended up leaving it in the freezer, so it's like a flipping slushy. It's all right. I'll still drink it though. All right, here we go. Oh, a few people watching already. Cool. I was delayed though. Good evening, happy New Year with health and happiness to you and your loved ones. Yeah, thanks, Iron Fist. Good to see you here, man. Happy New Year to you. God bless you, bro. Every time. Reverse Lee, how's it going? Praise the Lord, for he died for our sins. Absolutely. Praise be to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Believe in him and trust in him as you'll trust a parachute that you shall be saved. Evening, sir. Yep, evening, JD. How you doing, man? Yep, absolutely. What's happening, Thomas? Good to see you. I wonder if Nordic is too busy filling out his H1B1. Yeah, I was a little bit delayed now. Like I said, I left thingy Iron Brew left in the freezer. And it ended up like all icy and that. In fact, I'll show you. In fact, you might not even be able to see it on here. Look there. Yeah, it's all it's like an iceberg. That's what it is. It's all slushy now. So, yeah, audio good. Yeah, does it sound all right? Like, does it sound the same as like it does when I normally go live? Because bloody, I don't know for whatever reason. Like when I try to record videos on this laptop, which is a newer one, I don't know why it just doesn't sound right to me. Even when I use, like, as I can show you. I use the same microphone. It's the same one, but for whatever reason, it sounds different on this laptop. I don't know why. No idea. Oh well, here's what it is. If you guys can't tell a difference, then it's all good. It's all good with me. Yeah, how's it going, man? Howdy. God bless you. Sounds like yeah, sounds like the old vid, yeah, where it sounds like I'm recording in the bathroom or in like a field with wind or something. Yeah. I respect the mistreated hedgehog. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is the real hedgehog. The real perfect life form. This is him right here with his gun, his motorbike, and his based attitude. You know, that's the real one. Shout out to Hawker. How you doing, man? God bless you. Yep, big up Shadow. Absolutely. God bless him. You seen Floyd is too broke to pay people in his TMT gym. That doesn't surprise me with the amount of tax he probably has to pay. You know. It probably gets taxed out the arse, isn't it? It's like the more money you make, the more money you gotta pay. That's just how it goes, isn't it? Shalom, mate. Yeah, how's it going? You got no fans. God bless you. I would say the audio sounds a little bit different, but I'm not complaining. Yeah, and I don't know something about it. It sounds kind of tinny, doesn't it? And I don't understand why that is because it's the same microphone, and like the audio settings, as far as I can tell, I've set them exactly the same as I did on the other laptop. It's just that that laptop's basically bit the dust. It's like in pieces now. It's like hanging. What one side of the little bit that connects the screen to the main bit is like snapped, so it's hanging off by one of them. So yeah, it's only a matter of time before it's like conks out. So I'm gonna have to either revert to using this one or get a new one altogether if I can't fix the audio on this one. Because if I'm making videos, I obviously wanna have the best audio that I can have on it, you know? Yeah, how's it going, Larry? Good to see you here, man. God bless you. Hope you had a good New Year. Got some pizza on the way with chicken and jalapeno pepper. Oh man, that would be lovely. Oh, I could go a pizza. I had a couple of pies today. Well, 1.5 pies anyway. Yeah, I've been eating like a pig the past few days, because of the like festive season. But see, as soon as Monday comes next week, I'm gonna go back to the gym, and yeah, I'm gonna go back to eating healthy. So yeah, I can kind of pig out today and tomorrow. Then I'm back to normal. Hey, what's happening, Bruce? How's it going, man? God bless you. How you doing? Yeah, same to you, cigar. Yeah, let's hope we have a good 2025. God bless. Yeah, same to you, bro. Floyd will need to fight Jake Paul in yeah, well that'll be a good way to get some of his tax bills paid, innit? Just have a big Jake Paul fight. That'll sort it. I mean, that's the thing. Jake Paul is slowly becoming, and I hate to say it, but it's true. He's slowly becoming like the cash cow of boxing. You know, if these fighters have got a big ass bill they got to pay, all they got to do is fight Jake Paul. Well, obviously they got to get him to agree to it, and then they'll be set for life, innit? Or in Floyd's case, he'll be able to pay off his latest, council tax bill or something, I don't know, like, I don't know. Maybe he's got, like, gambling debts or something. I mean, the guy bets, like I mean, he's always in strip clubs and that, and from what I hear, he bets, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars on football games. So I wouldn't be surprised if, Floyd had, like, major gambling debts or something like that. I wouldn't surprise me at all, and obviously there's the issue of tax. So, yeah, it's like the more you get, the more you need, innit? Jake Paul might be his only option. I mean, what's he gonna do? Fight Pacquiao again? Because I mean, Manny doesn't seem to be able to really sell anymore. Like his exhibitions kind of bombed. So, yeah, what's he gonna do? Eh? I don't know. Might need Jake Paul to throw him a lifeline, like he did Mike Tyson. You know. What fights are you looking forward to? For me, the obvious is Beterbiev Bivol rematch. Apart from that, Boachuk versus Madrimov. I think it was postponed. Well, Boachuk versus Madrimov is a really, really tough fight to call. I actually think Boachuk has the power to win that fight. He has the power, the durability. I think he could break Madrimov, but I do think Madrimov is technically better. I think he's a little bit more skilled of the two, a little bit more well schooled. It's just can he handle the strength and the power of Boachuk? I'm not so sure. It's an interesting fight, that one. Very interesting fight. So if it does get rescheduled, then I am looking forward to it. But again, it obviously it's one of them fights that it's really really tough to call. But Bivol Beterbiev, yeah, still very much looking forward to it. I watched the first fight several times. I really enjoyed it. You know, you don't like the Tom Holland Spider Mans, do you? Nah, not really. I mean, I can watch those movies, but just kind of me being like an alt right guy. There's just certain things about them that just irritate me. Again, it's a kind of a postmodern Spider-Man. So I just stick with the originals. The originals were kind of based. I like those movies. Yeah, same to you, bro. God bless you. Happy New Year. Yeah, same to you, man. Happy New Year. Here's to a better New Year. Yeah, I reckon it's gonna be a good year. I reckon it's gonna be a good year. Got a lot of stuff planned for this year. Hopefully, it all goes to plan. And yeah, if I mute the microphone for like 3 seconds or something, it's because I'm coughing. I've still got a really itchy throat. I've had it for like a week and I don't know why. It just won't go away. You know, I'm going back to my local boxing gym next week. I plan on competing immediately. Can't wait. Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, good luck to you. Yeah, hopefully you get a good gym that actually teaches you how to box and doesn't just have you do circuit training. Let's hope they actually do. They actually teach you like proper technique and all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna be going back to the boxing gym, either next week or the week after. Because I'm gonna be going to my weightlifting gym because I've not been there in a good couple of weeks because 'cause it's been shut and that. So I'll probably start that next week just to start ticking over again, and then once I'm, loosened up a bit, get back to the boxing gym. Hopefully get back to sparring and that. What do you think of yeah, yeah, we were mentioning that earlier. Apparently Floyd is underpaying his staff, or he can't afford to pay them. I don't know, I just heard about it for the first time on this stream. So, yeah, I've not looked into it at all. But it seems like the kind of thing he would do, innit? He's a money grabber, isn't he? So, yeah, I don't know. I've not really looked into it, so I've no idea. I just assume he's broke and he needs the money. He's probably got like gambling debts and got a lot of tax to pay, maybe child support. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Only Inoue, Canelo, and people under Saudi are making big money. Yeah, yeah, because the Saudis again, like they're just throwing a stupid amount of money at boxing, and they're not going to make a return on that investment. It's literally just like a propaganda campaign. So like as soon as that runs out, these fighters who have been used to getting paid like millions and millions of dollars, that money's going to dry up. But you know that they're going to still expect to receive that money, and if they're not receiving it, then you know probably going to stop getting good fights. I'd imagine. That juice is actually all right. Even though it's like an iceberg, I don't mind it actually. It's not too bad. Where was I? Good luck. I'm planning on competing. Oh, good. Yeah, hopefully it works out for you then. Call me crazy. I'm looking forward to see Chisora versus Wallin. Do you know, it's an interesting fight, that one. It's actually quite a tough fight to call. Like, I could see Wallin winning it on points just because Chisora is completely shot to pieces. But at the same time, Wallin has never been that much of a competitor, has he? He's always been kind of a guy who just has the look of someone who's there to lose, who's there to give you a fight, but not really put it all on the line and win. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chisora just kind of mauled him and fiddled his way to a decision win. But it's a tough fight to call because again, you've got one guy in Chisora who's completely shot, but will still come to win. And you've got a guy in Wallin who is probably physically still close to his prime, but just doesn't really give a crap and isn't really much of a competitor. So yeah, it's an interesting fight in that regard, I guess. If they did Floyd Pack 2 exhibition, it would pay it would pay Floyd's council tax for sure, yeah. Yeah, just about maybe, but it probably wouldn't pay his gambling debts. So Jake Paul's probably his only option. I like Boachuk's style very much. Tight guard, good punch technique, great fundamentals. Yeah, yeah, I like watching Boachuk as well. I think he's a little bit underrated. Like, that's not to say he doesn't have flaws. Like, he doesn't have the best chin, and sometimes he's a little bit clumsy, like, he's not the best finisher, but he's a guy who's kind of a good, consistent, all-round professional. Like I say, he's got a good high guard, he's got good punching technique, he's strong, good power, decent stamina, good defense. I think he's a pretty good fighter, like an all-rounder, if you know what I mean. Andrew Garf No, I didn't like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man films. I didn't like them one bit. I thought those movies were really boring, if truth be told. I think the Tobey Maguire ones were way better, like, way better. What do you think about Terence Crawford versus Canelo, since that's being talked well, they've been talking about that for a while. I don't think it will happen. I think that's just hype, if truth be told. Like, I very much doubt those 2 will fight. Crawford is the kinda guy who likes to have everything his own way. He likes to be the A side. He likes to be able to dictate weight stipulations and stuff like that, and he would not be able to do that against somebody with the kind of drawing power as Canelo. Canelo would be the A side in that fight just based on how much money he brings in. He would be able to choose the weight and stuff like that, the gloves and, the drug testing commission and all that stuff. And I just don't think that, um, personally, I just don't think Crawford would risk it. I think Crawford gets paid very well, for the level he's at. He knows where his bread's buttered. I don't think he'll take that fight. If it did happen though, I'd struggle to pick a winner because I think Canelo is pretty shot now, and Crawford it still looks physically at his prime, but I've never really rated him that highly anyway. So I don't know. It would be a 50-50 fight to me if it happened, but I don't think it will happen. That's my argument. My gym only does circuit training. So, mate, I tell you what circuit training is, right? Circuit training in a boxing gym is a perfect excuse for the trainer not to do his job. That's what it is. It's like a daycare. It's like instead of teaching the lads how to box, taking them on the pads, showing them how to punch, doing like footwork drills with them, having some sparring between them, and like actually like mediating and officiating the sparring and overseeing it, having them do like bag drills and things like that. Instead of doing actual stuff that is somewhat relevant to boxing, a lot of boxing coaches would just rather have them do burpees and sit-ups and just stand there and look on their phone and go, 3 minutes to go or something like that. Like that's what most of the boxing gyms I've been to, that's kind of what they're like. They're just complete like a complete waste of time. Like, if you're going to a boxing gym, you should be boxing, alright? All that other stuff like cardio and like, stretching and all that other stuff, that can be done at home. That can be done at a spin class, that can be done anytime, like strength and conditioning and stuff like that. That should all be done outside of the boxing gym. The boxing gym should be all about boxing. Like, if I was running a boxing gym and obviously, like, I don't have the qualifications to do that. Maybe one day, you never know, but I wouldn't even bother having them do cardio unless they had a fight coming up. Like, I would have them specifically focus on technique and skills, like boxing work, like have it be practical, if you know what I mean. I've felt that for a long time. Like, I hate it when you go to a boxing gym and they have you do like stupid circuit training. I've never understood it. That's the kind of stuff you can do at home. And it's just kind of it's also kind of outdated, I think. Like, I think circuit training does more harm than good. I think it's outdated. I really do, you know? I just don't understand it. I don't see the point. Usyk was named Boxer of the Year for 2024, I think. Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, he had the, 2 best victories of the year by far. I was actually gonna make a video about Usyk today. I had a few interesting things I wanted to talk about, but I kinda got caught up with work and stuff, so I decided whatever, I'll just jump on a live today and maybe we'll talk about it. But there's a few things I've been noticing from sort of the mainstream boxing media where it seems to me like they're starting to panic a little bit over something to do with Usyk. Who's who's phoning me? I don't know who that is. I'm not answering. Yeah. Rude. Somebody tried to phone me on an unknown number during my live stream. Absolutely rude. Alright, where was I? What was I saying? Um, yeah, there's something I've noticed from the mainstream boxing media about Usyk over the past week or so, and I think they're starting to panic a little bit over basically the thought of Usyk overtaking some of the established all-time greats in terms of his place in history. Maybe I will talk about it in a video because I've got a lot I want to say there. And I'd like to really think about how I'm gonna articulate it because I don't know, I don't really know if I could just do it right now on a live, on the spot. I'd need to actually really think about it, but I've noticed a little bit of an odd trend with both the mainstream boxing media and a lot of the let's just say AI generated stuff you come across on YouTube. put it that way, and a lot of people seem to be walking back things they've said about Usyk, and, they're starting to panic a little bit. I think Usyk has kind of put boxing history into a bit of a perspective, if you know what I mean. And a lot of people in the boxing establishment who were very complimentary about Usyk up until recently, they're starting to panic a little bit, and they're starting to realize the ramifications of what Usyk's recent victories have done for boxing, basically. So I'll talk about it in a video. Like 'cause again, it'll give you guys some more background noise, if nothing else, to listen to. But I've got a few interesting things I want to talk about there. But where was I? Tom Holland Spider-Man movies had so much potential, ruined by the left rainbow mafia. Yeah, I refuse to even watch the third one, and the reason why is because it dragged the old movies, the Tobey Maguire ones, through the mud. It dragged them into the MCU like cesspit and tried to assimilate them, and I was having none of it. I'm not having my childhood ruined, you know? Tom Holland Spider-Man is just white Miles Morales. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Funny how Floyd has money for multiple Bentleys and mansions, yet he refuses to pay employees. Many such cases with the ultra rich being cheap and classless. Well, how do you think they got ultra rich? They got ultra rich by being cheap and classless, and by not paying their dues. You know, that's how they have so much money. You know, they wouldn't have all that money if they paid their dues like the rest of us. You know, but is what it is. Controversially, I think this Saudi Arabian era of boxing has been pretty solid. We've had title unifications and big fights happening that we wouldn't have happened in the last decade. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You're right about that. The problem I have with it is it's not long term sustainable. Like that, there's no way that the Saudis are going to keep pumping money into boxing for the next decade or so. After a few years or so, when they realize, look, we've achieved our goals, like with the propaganda that they're trying to push for the nation, and it'll all just stop all of a sudden. The money will stop coming in. They'll stop paying these like ridiculous site fees. You know that they'll stop putting on like all these crazy ass cards, and boxing will be right back to square one. And all these fighters will continue to demand to get paid an insane amount of money, you know, with the likes of Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen wanting to be featured on the undercard of a heavyweight title fight on a big multi-million dollar site fee in that. Like you're not gonna be seeing that. But these fighters are still gonna have the taste for it, you know, they're still gonna have those expensive tastes. So yeah, enjoy the Saudi Arabia thing while it's here, but don't get attached to it, is all I'm saying. Because once it stops, you're gonna notice it. Put it that way, you know? Just hike up your skirt like him. Yeah. I have no idea regarding the Spider-Man movies. I heard the Miles Morales guy's love interest was supposed to be a transform. Oh, come on, man. Yeah, yeah, no comment. No comment. Yeah, I didn't like those movies at all. I thought they were boring. The amazing ones, you know. I attended a boxing gym once a week for 5 to 6 months when I was 17. I still remember some techniques. Well, that's good. Hopefully you can bring them into your next gym, you know, you'll still kinda have the muscle memory to know how to move and how to punch and things like that, you know? It's all important. The original Spider-Man 1 and 2 are both great. Third was alright. It's not as good as the first 2. Yeah, I agree. I love the first 2, and I love the third one for, like, different reasons. I think that movie's hilarious, and I think it's like, it's like, what do you call it? A misunderstood masterpiece, you know? I really like that movie. They are pretty much everywhere now. Yeah, you mean the Transformers? Best form of boxing work is cutting off the ring. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what my old coach had me do for ages was in the ring learning how to cut off the ring, how to move like diagonally and move with my back foot first to cut off the opponent's escape and get foot position on them. And that's the kind of thing I work on in sparring. You know, it's because it's very important to do so, I think. I never sparred, but I did plenty of pad work. We did We did do 5, 10 minutes of circuit training to begin with, then pad work and a stretch off at the end of a 1-hour session. Yeah, that's not too bad. Like, as long as it's not, like, all circuits, as long as you don't do, like, the full session of bloody circuits, as long as you're getting plenty of actual boxing training, then that's not too bad, you know? I'd like to see Usyk go 30-0, silence the doubters. Yeah, well, he could do that easily. Like, if he just cherry-picked the rest of his career, he could easily go 30-0. But, if truth be told, I would like to see Usyk retire. I would, because, I don't see him, like, look, I'm not gonna doubt that Usyk could still win big fights. Like, if he fought Fury for a 3rd time, he'd probably beat him again. But my point is Usyk has achieved so much now, and the boxing establishment are starting to really seethe about it, you know, talking about Muhammad Ali. He's not as great as Muhammad Ali. You know, they're starting to give it all that. And the second Usyk loses, you know they're gonna jump all over that. And they're gonna be like, "See, we told you he wasn't as great as Muhammad Ali because he lost." So I would like for Usyk to not give them the satisfaction. I would like for him to take the Sven Oki approach and just retire undefeated. That's what I would like for Usyk to do, and he's achieved everything. He's again, as Tony Bellew would say, he's clocked the game. Like he's achieved everything in boxing. He's become undisputed in 2 divisions, lineal in 2 divisions. He's beaten all-time great fighters at cruiserweight. He's beaten an all-time great fighter at heavyweight in Fury. You know, a guy who um, you know, had one of the most historic victories in the past decade. And I don't know, man. Like I just feel like he's achieved everything. You know, he's achieved everything he could possibly achieve without really, really going out there and putting himself in danger of losing, you know? That's what I think he should do. I think he should call it a day now. And he looked what I noticed about Usyk, his body language. Do you know when they announced him the winner against Fury the second time? And when Daniel Dubois stepped in the ring and started giving it the big un and saying, "I want my rematch," I mean, the barefaced cheek of that guy. But as soon as that happened, look at Usyk's face. He looked fed up. He looked sick and tired of this crap. He was like, "I'm sick and tired of these British heavyweights. I'm sick and tired of these Western interviewers. I keep beating these guys. They can never just let me enjoy my victory. They've always got to have some other guy to come in and say, "No, no, now I need to fight that guy." And now they're doing it with a guy he's already beaten in Dubois, you know, a guy he already beat convincingly and made him quit. I think Usyk's tired, and he has hinted at retiring or taking a extended leave from boxing. So I think it would be within his best interest now to just call it a day. Just quit while you're ahead. You know, what once you start to cut corners a little bit, once you start to get a little bit um, less interested, once it starts to mean less to you, you know, once you start to feel fed up, and once you start not really having the same reaction to your victories that you had before, I think it's time to think about calling it a day. I really do. I honestly think it would be in his best interest to do that. I really do. So yeah, that's how I see it. That's boxercise, not real boxing. The gym I go to incorporates all aspects. Yeah, yeah. You're still working with the tax I mean, elderly people, yeah. Yeah, I do work with elderly people. Some of them are quite nice as well. It's weird because see the job I have right now, I'm actually planning my exit. I won't tell you guys too much, but I've got a training course booked for the end of the month. Well, it's like the end of this month, moving on to the start of next month, where I'm looking to get a few qualifications in a different industry, and I'm looking to move on, like, to get another job. I'm gonna start off with it, like, part-time, and then I'm gonna kind of see what the money's like and that, but, yeah, my point is the job that I've got right now, I really don't like the people I work with, like, the my colleagues are just it's like all of them have how do I put this delicately? It's like all of them have just recently graduated cunt school, and they're just horrible people to be around, so I don't particularly like them, and a lot of them are very, very two-faced and very disrespectful. But the actual, like, the actual elderly people who's being looked after at that place, they're actually really nice. They are. I've got no issue with them, and, you know, they're very, very, polite and pleasant people to be around, and some of them are actually quite cool. I really like them, but it's just my colleagues I'm sick and tired of. Again, I won't go too much into details, but yeah, I'm planning my escape from that job. I've got other things lined up, you know, which I'm looking into. The establishment is begging Usyk retires ASAP, but they don't want him to clean the division. See, I don't think they do want him to retire. I think they want him to lose. I think they want a Daniel Dubois or someone to go ahead and beat him. That's what I think they want some Western fighter to get lucky and, you know, catch him with a low blow and for the referee to actually call it a knockdown and wave the fight off. That's in my opinion what they're looking into, you know, or what they're hoping happens. I know if Usyk destroys Dubois in a rematch, Ade will jump on the Moses Atomic. Yeah, yeah. Did I mention that before? I mentioned it in my last live stream, didn't I? They asked, Usyk in an interview right after he'd beaten Tyson Fury. Again, Tyson Fury, an all-time great heavyweight. Usyk has just beaten him twice, and this is after he's already beaten Dubois, he's already beaten Joshua, he's already become undisputed lineal heavyweight champion, right? An all-time great, and they're asking him about Moses Itauma. Like, I found that so disrespectful. I don't even know how to put it into words. Why would you even mention Moses Itauma's name in an interview with Usyk? Like, why would they even ask Usyk about that guy? As if he knows anything about that guy, or as if that guy's even on his radar at all. Like, I found that so disrespectful. I honestly did. Honestly did. Thoughts on Precise's recent Ali videos? I love them. Oh yeah, yeah, they were good videos, and there was a lot. Do you know what you'll notice about see if you look at the comment section of that video in particular, his last one. This is something I was going to talk about in the video I was going to make today that I didn't even bother making. But you know, whenever you bring up that era of boxing, when you bring up Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, you know, kind of the quote unquote golden age of heavyweight boxing. Whenever you bring up that era, it's like heresy. Okay, you can't talk about that era, or if you are going to talk about that era, it has to be 100% positive. It has to be everybody from that era is untouchable, unbeatable. They will never be surpassed. You know that they were the absolute pinnacle of the sport, the pinnacle of athletics, and nothing has ever progressed since then. Nobody else in history from any other time period would be able to compete with them, and to even suggest that they would have a chance is like blasphemy. That's the way that general normie boxing fans behave whenever you talk about that era. So on my channel, I tend to avoid talking about that era. You'll notice I very rarely ever talk about Muhammad Ali or you know, Joe Frazier and fighters of that era because I get it's just I find the boxing community becomes very, very toxic surrounding that subject, if you know what I mean. Because when you start actually looking, and again, this is what Precise did with that video, right? He starts looking at Muhammad Ali, right? And instead of doing what a lot of people do and just talking about Ali, talking about how great he was, how fast he was, how he had the most amazing defense ever, the most amazing jab ever, the most amazing footwork ever. Instead of actually just saying that, what he actually did was he went and he actually looked at the fight and broke it down and showed it in slow motion and analyzed it as you're supposed to do if you're a boxing analyst. But that was basically if you look at the comment section, you look at the response to that video, it's blasphemy. It's absolute blasphemy to most normie boxing fans. It's like, how dare you look at Muhammad Ali's fights and actually analyze them? How dare you? You can't do that. You have to say he's the greatest of all time, and nobody would have a chance of beating him. That's what you have to say. It's like, and if you don't say that, you are a pariah in the boxing community. You're basically discredited and ridiculed, and your opinion on anything doesn't matter. That's kind of how the boxing community reacts to people who actually look at Muhammad Ali and break down his fights and actually compare him to other eras of boxing. It's just something you're not allowed to do, as far as I can tell, you know. And yeah, I was going to talk about this in great detail today, but yeah, as I said, I never got round to it. I had IRL things to deal with, you know. Unfortunately, I would like to see Dubois versus Bakoli. That's a very good fight, and that seems like a guaranteed knockout either way. I would actually favour Bakoli if he actually showed up in shape and actually came to win, like he did in his last fight. I think he would set about Dubois, probably make him quit, you know. But yeah, you'll be glad to know that the ice has gone down a little bit, so I can actually have a drink. Nice. I think Usyk will have a couple more fights. Kabayel would be interesting. Yeah, 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 that would be interesting. Kabayel, he's not the biggest puncher, but he's a good technician. You know, he moves well, and he's got, he's a good lateral movement, good jab, and he can be a bit of a, stand in the pocket, slug it out with you type of fighter when he wants to be. That's not really his natural style, but he can do that, as you saw from the Makhmedov fight. Your point on Saudi Arabia is why I think we should just enjoy this era for what it is right now. Yeah, exactly. Enjoy it while it's still here, because I don't think it'll last very long. Because once the Saudis stop investing in boxing, again, these fighters are still going to expect the same amount of money to compete and to take risks in that. They're not just going to go back to how it was before. They're not just going to accept their usual paydays that they can generate when they've been getting paid tens of millions. For these Saudi fights, they're going to have an unrealistic expectation of their market worth. The thing is, once that happens, who's going to be big enough in their divisions to generate mainstream interest? Yeah, yeah, nobody's going to be big enough because nobody in boxing generates tens of millions of dollars per fight, like consistently. Nobody. Not unless you're like a Canelo or a Jake Paul, a massive like stadium fighter or a massive proven pay-per-view box office draw. There's nobody who can consistently bring in that kind of money, you know. Mate, Usyk and Ali. Usyk is so much greater than Ali that it's actually laughable that there's even a discussion about this. But again, this is what I'm saying right now. It's blasphemy. You're not allowed to say it in the boxing community. It's heresy basically. Again, when it comes to Muhammad Ali and his era, you can't talk about it. You can't analyze him. You can't say anything other than he's the greatest and nobody would ever beat him. That's the only accepted narrative that will allow you to maintain a reputation or a positive reputation in the boxing community, which is sad. It's sad that the boxing community has to be so narrow-minded like that, you know? It's sad. BBC hasn't signed a deal with Riyadh Season because they're scared that Ameribom hype jobs are gonna get exposed. Well, so far, like, when you think about it, so far, every single one of the Ameriboms who has gone over to Saudi has lost. Um, I can't think of a single one of them that's won, and that, in my opinion, is why, Shakur Stevenson pulled out of his Saudi fight, and again, why again, like you say, why the PBC haven't agreed to it, because it means they'll have to have real fights, they won't be able to fight these, Mexican cab drivers and bin men, who are there to go down from a jab to the body and stay down, they won't be able to have those kinds of fights. Have you thought about warehouse or factory work? I have, but that's not really I don't think that's something that will really suit me personally. I'm basically I'm looking to get a I'm looking to get a security license and a couple of other licenses I'm looking at too. You know, I'm just looking at getting various qualifications and stuff like that and keeping my options open. You know, because I do want to try and get a different job. You know, from the one I've got now, but I'm not 100% certain what I want to do. It's just I just want to keep my options open. But yeah, warehouse and factory work, I'd try it. I'd give it a go. I don't know if I'd be very good at it though. Don't know if it's I mean, I did get that job at Amazon before, but I quit after the first day. So yeah, I don't know. But that wasn't to do with the job itself. That was to do with the traveling. I was having to travel to bloody Dunfermline every day, and I wasn't doing that. The job centre kind of screwed me over with that one. So yeah, it's something to think about. It's an option, you know. I'm thinking of doing an online training course to find a better paying job. I'm able to save plenty of money, but I want to progress. What kind of job do you do, if you don't mind me asking? I forget. Did you tell me before? I don't remember. Yeah, how's it going, living being? God bless you, man. It's Alma beating Usyk with a rabbit punch is the worst timeline possible right now, and it could happen the next couple of years. Surely that fight's not going to happen. Surely, like Italma is still a prospect, and he's a prospect who hasn't done anything of note. So yeah, Usyk should just. I think he should just retire, not even think about that guy, not even bother watching him. You know. Yeah, some of his fights do look a bit suspicious. I mean, I think he does have talent, but yeah, he's just a prospect. There's best not to get hyped about him until he actually beats a genuine fringe contender. You know. Yeah, how you doing, Majestic? God bless you. Yeah, but again, that's just how it is in Britain. Whenever you get a heavyweight that shows any promise at all or a bit of power, um, the media just hypes the crap out of them. They're the next Mike Tyson, this, that, and the other. It's always the same. We've seen it with Audley Harrison. We've seen it with David Price. We've seen it with all of them. You know, you were spot on under that video. Ali would last a few rounds versus Usyk. That's it. Yeah, the fanboyism for that shit domestic era is ridiculous and disturbing. Yeah, mate. I've said everything I needed to say about that in the past. But look, Muhammad Ali. Let's get one thing clear. The guy didn't really have a jab. Let's be perfectly honest. He didn't really have a jab. His footwork was pretty much trash. He used to just bounce around the ring, running around like a fairy princess, getting hit with the jab, getting knocked off balance. He had a great chin to his credit, and he was a very fit, durable guy. But he didn't really have great defense. His defense was awful, if truth be told. Didn't have a lot of power. He only really knocked out his opponents if they were like badly exhausted and like on the verge of just collapsing already. He had a decent straight right hand, but he didn't really know how to throw a hook. Never went to the body. Couldn't fight on the inside. All he did was clinch inside and lean on the opponent. Like Muhammad Ali was so overrated, and it just so happens that he fought in an era where most of the fighters were sluggers, most of them were slow, most of them were like cavemen, big brutes who just walk forward throwing big punches. Like Joe Frazier, a guy who his entire game plan for every fight is to just bob and weave and throw the left hook. Like it was like a unicorn seeing Joe Frazier throw the right hand. People were shocked when they would see him throw it because he used to just throw the left hook over and over again. And he was able to beat Ali by doing that. He was able to drop him and he was able to beat him so badly that he probably gave him brain damage, you know, just walking forward. Well, I mean, why do you think Muhammad Ali had severe brain damage to the point where at the end of his career he could barely string a sentence together? It's because he didn't have any defense. He literally couldn't defend himself in the ring. That's why he ended up a vegetable. And I don't mean any disrespect towards the man, but it's a cautionary tale. You fight with your hands down, getting hit all night. You're gonna end up with Alzheimer's, you're gonna end up with Parkinson's, you're gonna end up with something. It's what happens, and try telling that to these, like, to these hipster boxing fans, and they start flipping out and spurging out and screaming at you. Muhammad Ali, look, he was an all-time great for the standard of his era, okay? He fought in an era of very, very unsophisticated, weak top-level heavyweights in a domestic scene. All the Soviet guys and the elite athletes of that day weren't even allowed to compete on the world stage. So, look, I'm not saying he was a great fight. He wasn't a great fighter. He was. He was ahead of his time in terms of fitness, athletic ability, and stuff like that. He was a very durable and gutsy guy who could get down and dirty and fight. He was not a great fighter by today's standard. Alexander Usyk would knock him out with ease, right? Usyk is leagues above him in terms of both physicality and technical ability, right? He's leagues above him, all right? Usyk has an elite level high guard. He has great lead hand control, great hand speed, great lateral movement and footwork. Put it this way, you look at what Larry Holmes, and I'm gonna make a video about this. Look at what Larry Holmes did to Muhammad Ali, and imagine that was Usyk in there. Like, Usyk is like a modern, more advanced version of Larry Holmes in what he was able to do. He would absolutely demolish Muhammad Ali. He knocks him out in the early rounds with ease. I've no doubt about it. And the same goes for most of Usyk's opponents as a pro. He beats most of them, if truth be told. Like, you think Muhammad Ali would beat Marco Huck? He wouldn't. Marco Huck would knock Muhammad Ali out cold in a few rounds. I'm not even joking. Murat Gassiev would knock Muhammad Ali out cold. Gassiev is a bigger guy and a bigger puncher than Joe Frazier. All right, he would win that fight easily. Look at the left hook that Gassiev was able to land on. What's that guy's name? Jordan Schimmel. Look at that left hook. Imagine that was Muhammad Ali there, who just stood there all night getting hit with left hooks. You think he's going to be able to take that against a guy like Gassiev? Would he be able to take an uppercut from someone like Briedis? He would probably get knocked out in the first round by Briedis. I'm not even joking. Was you there when Del Boy said in his last stream that casual boxing? Yeah, yeah, I was there. Yeah. That made me piss myself laughing. Like, yeah, one of his casual boxing mates said he had a signed poster of Nigel Benn versus Mike Tyson. Oh, that's such a casual comment in it. It's funny though. I like it when you hear like boxing fans who ain't got a clue say things like that. It's so funny, is it? So funny. Where was I? Ali was a great heavyweight for his time. Comparing boxers from different eras is pretty flawed anyway. Exactly. That's the key term. For his time, he was great. Okay, just like Rocky Marciano was great for his time. But if you put Rocky Marciano in the ring with Vladimir Klitschko, he's probably not gonna last a round, is he? Because he's too small and too easy to hit? The '80s era gets overlooked too often. It's considered a weak era because it came after Ali. Bit weird if you ask me, yeah. Well, I'll tell you why the '80s era gets overlooked, and I'm gonna talk about this in a video. It's because that era was basically dominated by Larry Holmes, and Larry Holmes is a fighter who is not very well liked, and you'll notice this if you pay close attention. Again, I'm gonna go into detail about this in a video because Larry Holmes is a fighter who fascinates me. Larry Holmes is a fighter who's not very well liked among the American mainstream boxing fraternity. And a large percentage of that is because of what he said about Muhammad Ali. He was one of the few fighters from that era, from that kind of fraternity and that kind of league. He was one of the few fighters from there who was honest about Muhammad Ali in the things that he said. And not only that, but he was leagues above all the heavyweights from that era in terms of his boxing IQ. Like, he understood boxing at a much higher level than most of them. He was one of the few fighters from that era who, I'm not saying he would be top level today, but he would have been able to compete at a decent level today. based on his boxing IQ, Larry Holmes, and I'm gonna make a video about that. But yeah, I'm gonna go into more detail about it. But long story short, Larry Holmes was not very well liked, and he still to this day is not very well liked by the American boxing fraternity. And yeah, I'm gonna go into detail about that at some point in time. Um, but where was I? But yeah, that's why the '80s gets overlooked. It's because of Larry Holmes, put it that way. Boxing fans are being brainwashed from the moment they search boxing on YouTube. They are being trained to consider post-American boxers as gods, yeah. And not only that, but have you noticed all the AI generated content you're seeing on YouTube? There's actually channels now with like hundreds of thousands of subs that get hundreds of thousands of views per video. And a lot of the videos are just AI generated, talking about like how great a lot of the like 70s and 80s heavyweights were, or 60s and 70s heavyweights, and you know, basically just reciting stuff from articles, and it's all AI generated. It's like a text to speech engine, um, talking in the videos, and it's yeah, it's very very disturbing. It is. Only in boxing you can't criticize past error. This doesn't happen in MMA, kickboxing, and even non-contact sports. Yeah, I mean, nobody is going to say that I don't know Jesse Owens can run faster than Usain Bolt. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say that flipping footballers from like the 1930s would beat modern day footballers. Nobody who understands the sport saying that. Again, Delroy was talking about this as well. Nobody's going to say that Chuck Liddell would be a top fighter in today's MMA scene. It just wouldn't happen, you know, because the sport has evolved. It's progressed. Things have changed. Fighters have learned from the mistakes of fighters in the past. Just like Larry Holmes basically learned because he grew up sparring with Ali, right? Larry Holmes learned from a lot of the mistakes that Ali had because again, Ali didn't really have a jab. He didn't really have lateral movement. Larry Holmes used to spar with him, used to school him in sparring, and actually figured out how to develop those things and control the fight behind the jab, using lateral movement. And that was one era passing the torch to the next, and the next era became much more sophisticated and skilled. Who would win? It's like when people ask who would win, AJ or Tyson. Yeah, I don't even know who would win that fight. Like, I think Tyson would have a very good chance on the inside to just like catch AJ to the body, catch him with an overhand shot, and make him like panic and quit. But at the same time, AJ could like walk him onto an uppercut and knock him out. You never know. That's a very, very interesting fight, actually. I think a boxer will have 5+ losses, but fans get ignorant if you assert that they could lose to someone. Yeah, I mean, Muhammad Ali lost to Leon Spinks. But if you suggest that Tyson Fury could beat him or Usyk could beat him, these guys stop flipping out. I mean, make that make sense to me. There's nobody that have big egos than these homo social media bodybuilders. I beat up this one big bodybuilder and made him quit like a little girl. What, did you beat him up in a boxing ring? I can imagine that. Yeah, a lot of bodybuilders are just not built for boxing. Yeah, you think AJ would beat Tyson? Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. You seen the most recent Batman movie with the Twilight dude? Is it any good? No, I didn't see it, and I probably never will watch it. I'm sick of these boring like superhero films. These new ones, they're all just the same crap over and over again, and they're all like cultural Marxist rubbish. It's perfectly fine to criticize and pick apart the resume of the two-division undisputed Ukrainian Alexander Usyk. Yeah, well, pick apart his resume all you want because his resume is fantastic. It's one of the best ever. It's one of the worst ever. You aren't asking me. Oh, you're on about the Batman film? Yeah, yeah. I'll never watch it. Since you're from Nottingham, are you a Nottingham Forest fan? Well, my friends are big Nottingham Forest fans. Yeah, I've never been into football though. Most of the people I know down in Nottingham were Forest supporters though. Yeah, I actually watched the Forest game that was on the same day as as Fury versus Usyk. We watched that, like, before we watched the fight. I forget who it was they were playing, but yeah, they won, like, 2-0 or something. But yeah, I could care less about football, but yeah, um, most of my, most of my clique, I guess you could say, are Forest fans, yeah. It's blasphemy to pick apart the resume of Muhammad Ali, yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Bookies have Cabell a favourite against Zhang. Yeah, I was picking Cabell, so that doesn't surprise me. I'm picking Cabell to win that fight. I think he's probably gonna win it on points. I could be wrong, and I give, Zhang a very good puncher's chance, but I can't see Zhang, outboxing him. I think Cabell will probably outbox him when on points. I think he'll outlast him. Like, he might lose some of the early rounds, but Zhang has terrible stamina, he's always out of shape, and I think he might slow down. I think Cabell might pick up the pace and probably win on points, you know? I've worked full time in a warehouse for 18 months now. I mainly work at a PC, but there's a lot of heavy lifting and bending up and down, yeah. That's like, the kind of thing I think you really need to be, like, built for it, don't you? You need to be able to kinda switch off, because 'cause I'd imagine it's very boring, and, yeah, you just gotta find a way to amuse yourself, I guess, while you do it. Don't know if I'd be able to handle that, if truth be told. Nice Nordic. I got my security license 2 years ago. The base pay is mid, but rises with experience. Yeah, that's one thing I'm hoping to get, a security license. Because again, that's the kind of thing you can do on the side as like a side hustle, and you never know, if you get lucky, you might get like, I mean, the pay's probably better than my pay anyway, so I'd probably just do that full time if I could. I'll be worried if they include that Batman in the new Superman universe. Well, are they making another Superman universe? Richard Torres is a better prospect than Italma. I've never even watched Richard Torres, but I've heard a lot of good things, you know? Or am I thinking of the right guy? Do you think Usyk beats Prime Mike and Prime Yes, I think he does. I give Lennox a good chance, like a puncher's chance, but I think Usyk probably beats him. Mike Tyson, I think he's too small. Usyk could just school him from long range and probably stop him late once Tyson gets knackered, from chasing him all night. Usyk could start, changing the trajectory of his punches and end up stopping him. Um, Warehouse work is easy to get into, but the pay is crap if you're just working as an operative. Yeah, yeah, I'd imagine the pay is kind of, not very good. Then again, I've never really had a high paying job. The only, I think the highest, like, hourly rate I've ever had is, like, £12 an hour, which is in today's economy is garbage, but I don't really have any skills work-wise, so yeah, I don't have the skills to get a high paid job because I didn't, get any qualifications in school because I was too cool for that. And I just generally don't have any skills anyway. I'm like I'm terrible with numbers and things like that. My literacy skills are not very good. My motor skills are pretty poor. Yeah, so yeah, I don't have any skills that can acquire me a, high paying job. So I just got to accept that that's the way it is. Ali was good, but never being able to move him below greatest of all time is just hilarious. Yeah, because he isn't even close to the greatest of all time. I don't think he was as good as Rocky Marciano. I'm not even joking. I think Rocky Marciano would have knocked him out. I genuinely do. Genuinely do. If Loma and Usyk existed in the domestic era of boxing, they would have gave those guys brain aneurysms just by fainting at them, yeah. Yeah, because none of those guys knew how to feint. Again, Larry Holmes knew how to feint, but none of the heavyweights from Ali's era were proficient in that area. They didn't really know how to set up their punches. George Foreman and Joe Frazier. Yeah, Foreman became a much more technically proficient fighter years after. But going into the Ali fight, Foreman just walked forward and just slugged big wide punches that, were so easy to see coming, and yet they were still landing. And Foreman looked as if he was drunk in that fight. Like, as if he'd been drugged or something, but he was still able to catch Ali with just about everything. So Ali was so overrated. It's shocking. But again, he's still great. He's great for his era, but he's so overrated by the standard of like all time in boxing. Ali was totally feather fisted and had zero defense. The fact he was never stopped shows how garbage it. Well, he was stopped once. He was stopped by Larry Holmes, but yeah, he was never stopped in his prime though. So you're right there. Shows how garbage his era was. Overrated punches and fixed fights. The '70s were a mess. Yeah, oh, they were definitely a mess. They were, I mean, not only that, but you see if you look at like the way fights were officiated back then, it's like they were making the rules up as they went along. Like when Ali fought Henry Cooper, Ali's literally just grabbing him behind the head, leaning into him, elbowing him. He headbutts him, opens a cut on him with a headbutt. Ali gets knocked spark out at the end of the second round. They stop the fight for like 10 minutes, give Ali all sorts of drugs and stimulants, rip his glove off to get him a new glove, to give him more time to recover. That's like, imagine you knock your opponent out, right? The fight's over, and then they stop the fight and take your opponent to hospital to resuscitate them, and then send them back in to just to help them win. Like, that's literally what that was like. That was one of the most egregious examples of corruption in boxing I think anyone has ever seen. I'm not sure they can even top that. He was literally knocked out to the point where he was unconscious on his stool, didn't know where he was, right? And then they gave him, what, like 10 minutes to recover just so he could win the fight because they knew the opponent he had was small and easy to cut, and they ended up cutting him with a clash of heads and calling it a stoppage. Because you guys remember the UK had this really weird rule that I don't think this rule went away until like the early 2010s. And it's where if a fight was stopped on a clash of heads, it would still be a TKO. So I think that was why Ali got the TKO in that fight because of the I don't know the British Boxing Board had like that stupid rule and yeah I don't know man that fight was just it highlights what I was talking about there about how it seemed like they just made the rules up as it went along just to suit whatever fighter was the favored guy by the establishment. Ali had 0 inside game. Tyson would beat his ass. Oh, yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Tyson, too big, too strong for Ali and too proficient on the inside. I just watched 5 Larry Holmes fights this morning. He sucks. Well, what fights did you watch? I'm curious about that. The promoters today aren't allowed to make their inclusive leagues and not face any criticism. Yeah, 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 true. Exclusive leagues. Nah, no, it wouldn't. But keep coping if you want to. Gassiev, Priedis, Opetaya would have all cleaned Ali's yeah, yeah, all of them would have knocked Ali out in the early rounds. All of them. Once Usyk retires, the whole media narrative and British bet and Western boxing media will say Usyk ducked Italma, and Italma would have exposed him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was true. Oh man, that's crazy. But yeah, you know that they'll do what they did with Klitschko and just say the era was weak and there wasn't any competition. That's what they'll say. I'm picking Marciano. I agree. I think Marciano KOs Ali easily. John L. Sullivan beats Superman. Yeah. Well, if Marciano fought the Klitschko's, that would literally be like Roman Gonzalez fighting Beterbiev in terms of the size difference. So no, he wouldn't have a chance. He wouldn't make it out of the first round against either one of them guys. Someone I know from college who asked who would win in a fight, Mayweather or Ali. My mate, I was just dumbfounded. Yeah, Ali's too big for Mayweather. Way too big. Well, I mean, Ali was like what 6'3", like 210 pounds. Like in his prime, like he was about 210 pounds. Like Ali, I mean, Floyd is what 5'7", 5'8", walks around at about 150, 155. Yeah, Ali's just way too big. Way too big. Yeah, yeah, that Gassiev Schimmel knockout was sickening. It was brutal. Imagine him doing that to Ali. And again, Ali couldn't avoid a left hook. It was like his kryptonite. He had the same flaw as Amir Khan. He always got caught with left hooks. Larry Holmes was a G, underrated, and would have whooped Prime Ali. I agree. Larry Holmes would be any version of Ali throughout his whole career. Any version. He would stop him easily without a shadow of a doubt, you know? Cool. Vlad would literally kill Marciano with one. Yeah, he'd probably break his jaw with one jab like that. And that's not any disrespect to Marciano. It's just he was way too small. Marciano would be a light heavyweight today, or a very much a push. He could be a cruiserweight maybe. Just look at Larry Holmes gassed up, right? Well, Larry Holmes beat just about everybody. He beat just about everybody, and even when he was in his, like, 40s and 50s, he was still fighting guys. I mean, he beat Ray Mercer back when he was in his prime, when he was champion. He absolutely battered Tex Cobb, when he was a top contender. He completely and utterly destroyed Muhammad Ali, practically ended his career. Larry Holmes was an elite heavyweight, and he fought for several decades too, at still a high level. He beat Butterbean. Yeah, Larry Holmes was a very good fighter. He was. Holmes is considered by the boxing media to be worst version of Ali. In actuality, he's leagues above him and had an actual good jab. Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about in the video. Like Larry Holmes is leagues. I mean, leagues above Muhammad Ali. Like Larry Holmes, he's the guy they tell us Muhammad Ali was. Larry Holmes is that guy. You remember when Sky News tried to make David Haye apologize for elbowing Chisora at the Klitschko Chisora presser? Yeah, they did, yeah. And he was like, "Listen, if somebody threatens you, you're not going to apologize to them. No, you're going to stamp on their head," or something like that. He said. What was it? He said something about if someone threatens you but they fall over, you're going to stamp on their head or something like that. It was quite funny. I thought. Yeah. Usain Bolt without Memo Haradia was an average runner. Oh, he was. Yeah, he was juiced up for sure, without a doubt. Most casuals don't even know who Ricardo Lopez was. The most technically proficient boxer I've seen. Would have been more famous if he weighed more. Yeah, Ricardo Lopez was a badass, man. That guy was incredible. I really enjoy watching him fight. It's interesting because they actually made an anime, like there was a character in an anime, I think, that was inspired by that guy because he was such a, like, dynamic fighter. And he had a what was Ricardo Lopez? Wasn't he, like, nearly 50-0 at one point? He had, like, a crazy record like that. It's just that he never made a lot of money or had a lot of hype because he was, like, what, a flyweight or something. So, yeah, if he was, a bigger guy, in a higher weight division, I agree, he would have been a much more well-known fighter. Ricardo Lopez recently got an homage in Japan. Inoue pay respects to him. Japan actually respects lower weight classes. Yeah, like I was saying, in Japan they made an anime about boxing, and Ricardo Lopez was one of the main inspirations for it. Like there was actually a character that they based on him, which I found quite interesting. Yeah, the Japanese boxing fans do like the lower divisions. It's because a lot of them are small guys. They tend to relate to that a lot more than us fat asses over here. We like the heavyweights. Have you seen Iron Claw? One of my favorite movies last year. It's a wrestling movie. I heard about that movie, but I didn't watch it. I might check it out though if it's good. But yeah, I remember hearing about that when it came out, and yeah, I might watch it. Yeah, how's it going, Albion? God bless you, man. Any news on the Dennis McCann B sample? Gone awfully quiet. No, no, I've not heard anything about that other than he failed a test. No, so I've no idea. No idea. Funny how everyone hyped Hrgovic as the dark horse now that he's lost to Dubois. He's not even mentioned now, mate. What did I say from day one about Hrgovic? Like, go back and listen to any of my videos where I talked about Hrgovic. I said from day one that guy is going nowhere. He's a hype job. He is not interested in boxing. He's a mercenary. He's criminally overrated. Like that guy, to me, Hrgovic is one of the biggest like disappointments in boxing because it was clear to me from very early on that he had no ambition. He was looking for one big payday for an easy title shot, and he was going nowhere. Like I never rated Filip Hrgovic. I never rated him at any stage of his career. Said it from day one, you know. Yeah, yeah, Caballel is very underrated. Ever since the Chisora fight, you know, he's looked very good, but he'd been kind of inactive in the aftermath of it. So I kind of think that's why people forgot about him a bit, you know. But he's definitely underrated. With security jobs, you can get loads of work hours, good earning potential if you can manage it. Yeah. Well, what I thought about doing was maybe getting a security license, maybe starting with a couple of like weekend shifts on the doors or something like that, or maybe just like I don't know, like retail security or something, just part time, just to try it out, see if the extra pay is any good, if it can help me sort things out, and yeah, if I like it, stick with it. You know, one of them things. Yeah, that would have been yeah, it's something I'm thinking of. You know. No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the Superman trailer. I heard there's a new Superman, but I didn't see the trailer. No. Yeah, 'cause didn't Lennox never fight a southpaw? Or at least I can't think of him fighting a southpaw. Maybe he did. I can't think of him fighting one though. I suppose that could be rectified with sparring. You know, Lennox was a clever guy. He probably would have gotten the right sparring to do you know, to do that what he normally did, but against a southpaw. But yeah, it's something we never saw him do, so we don't know. As long as we don't get an Israeli Wonder Woman, what a crack! Yeah, a crock. What would you consider high paying? I don't know. For me, high paying is just like I don't know, maybe like 14, £15 an hour, something like that. That's my idea of high pay. I know to some of you guys that's probably nothing. That's probably chicken change. But again, I'm a poor guy, you know, so again, I've never had like a high paying job. All my jobs have been like minimum wage and that because I don't have any skills, so I can't command a high paying job. But I'd say like yeah, 14, £15 an hour. That's my idea of a high paying job, like from my like commoner perspective, you know. Nor did you think Tim Tszyu will bounce back? The Harrison and Mendoza wins were decent. He got destroyed, or he got rinsed against Muratalev. Well, it depends what you mean by come back, because like he can still compete, he can still win fights, he could still, you know, go back to domestic level in Australia, you know, maybe have a fight in Russia. He talked about doing that. You know, he doesn't necessarily have to go right back to world level. I mean, he can still rebuild, but I think it's going to be a long rebuilding process. And you know, he's the son of a like celebrity boxer, you know, a well-known former world-class guy. So I can't imagine he needs the money. And does he really have the motivation and the heart and the drive to do that? Does he have the commitment to boxing? I don't know. But you know, there's nothing wrong with dropping down a level and rebuilding. You know, lots of fighters have done it throughout history. So I don't see why not. I don't see why he can't give domestic level a go and rebuild, maybe retool his game, maybe like change his training setup and come back stronger. He's still young enough to do it. So really depends if he wants it, you know? I mean, why not, eh? I've been playing, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. I remember you saying you've played that game. I've just been going around killing captains to level up and sell their gear, yeah. I like that game, it's fun. It's a fun game, like, it's kind of, a little bit bloated for my liking, but I do like, sort of the stealth mechanics and the combat. I like that you can, like, build your own army and stuff like that. It's a decent game. I enjoyed it. It's a decent game. I don't like what it did to the lore of Middle-earth. It kind of butchered the lore, but that's because I'm kind of a Tolkien nerd, you know. So if you're not into like Tolkien novels, then that won't bother you. But it is a great game. I did enjoy it. We need an Ivan Drago film, origin film with Povetkin, Chagayev, and Valoev as part of his stable. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that though, have it be an actual Russian movie though, that would be badass. An Ivan Drago origin story in Russia, and have him, like, in these, like, really grimy, like, Siberian boxing gyms and, show some of his, like, Soviet amateur career. That would be badass. I would love to see that, it'd be interesting. Harry Osborn's death in Spider-Man 3 is very sad. His last words to Peter were, "You're my friend." Yeah, yeah, that was a really sad scene. It was. Which decade do you kind of class as the modern era? 90s on? Yeah, I would say mid-90s. I'd say like 95 till today. That's what I would consider the modern era of boxing. Anything before that, I'd say is somewhat antiquated, but there's definitely exceptions to that rule. Again, a guy like Larry Holmes, I think he was a guy who kind of you'd look at him and think he was a modern fighter, but that was very rare. So I would say mid-90s to nowadays. That's what I would consider modern boxing. Anything before then is before boxing became like a genuine worldwide sport, and it progressed a lot. Yes, coast from the 90s on, it's the modern global era after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Pretty much, yeah. The fall of the Berlin Wall was when a lot of these European countries were allowed to compete worldwide in professional boxing, and that's when things changed. That's when you got the Klitschkos and the likes of Povetkin and whatnot, and that's when guys like Costa Zoo coming over and kicking ass. That was when boxing became a worldwide sport. Valuev would be too big for Rocky Marciano. If they were the same size, Rocky probably beats him up and stops him, but Valuev is so much bigger that Rocky wouldn't even be able to land a clean punch. He would just walk into his jab all night, probably get stopped in the mid-round. So yeah, I go with Valuev by mid-round stoppage. Ali played the part of the eccentric Negro in the Parkinson interviews, made him a huge bit like Mike Tyson. They built a whole team around him. They were nowhere near as good as their legacy suggests. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. He was kind of a sideshow, wasn't he? He was and kind of an industry plant. Larry Holmes was a much better version of Ali, and look what happened to him versus Mike. Now imagine Ali, yeah. To be fair, I do think Larry Holmes was badly out of shape when he fought Mike Tyson. I think he would have had a much better chance. I'm not saying he definitely would have won, but I think he would have had a much better chance a few years earlier. But yeah, imagine what Ali would have or what would have happened to him in that same situation. Ali would have got his head taken off if he'd have fought Tyson. It's an absolute mismatch. I watched Larry Holmes versus Tyson, Michael Spinks 1 and 2, Leon Spinks, Shavers 1 and 2, yeah. Just look at Holmes' resume. Marvis Fraser is one of his better wins. I don't know. I'd say Marvis Fraser is one of his like lower level wins, if truth be told. I mean, let's not forget, even when he was like 40 years old, he schooled Ray Mercer. That was a great win at the time. He was coming off that spectacular knockout win against Tommy Morrison, and then didn't Larry Holmes fight him next and completely school him? So yeah, he had a very very good resume, I think. Holmes 80s, not Holmes 90. Yeah, were they in the 80s? Yeah. How would Usyk get on with the Klitschkos? Again, that's something I don't really. That's something I don't really think was what was I gonna say? It's really really hard to call. I don't think it's easy to say who would win that. Because again, you could see Usyk outboxing either of them and winning on points, but Vladimir was very, very handy on the inside with clinching and things like that, and he also knew how to use his jab at long range. He had great lateral movement, and unlike a lot of the guys Usyk has fought in his career, I think Vladimir knew how to use his size very skillfully, and I just think that Vladimir had the kind of athletic ability and the kind of technique to where I'd give him a better chance against Usyk than I would most heavyweights. But based on what I saw against Fury, I'd probably be inclined to favour Usyk, but only slightly. But it's such a hard fight, man. I think Vitali would be a hard fight too, but stylistically, I think Vladimir would be a harder fight. I'd probably favour him. Man, I'm picking a youngerish Ali over Holmes. Holmes' delivery on his jab was one note. No, no chance. I completely disagree. Did you ever bet on Tyson Fury? I remember you saying, "Yeah, don't remind me." Yes, I bet on Tyson Fury. Ali was, done with Parkinson's, that fight meant nothing. No, he wasn't done. He was what, late 30s and he was still fighting at world level. He wasn't done, you know, but again, even if he was done, I still don't think he would have won prime for prime. Holmes was just leagues above him. Holmes actually had a jab, and he actually had lateral movement, things that Ali never had, you know? He was just a better fighter in every way. Marciano was around 180. He would be a small light heavyweight these days. Yeah, he would probably be at light heavyweight or cruiserweight at a push if he were around today. So a guy like Valuev, just way too big, you know? He is what it is. What are some of your favorite chocolates? My favorite chocolate is probably chocolate orange. I really like that. I have that every Christmas. I also like Toblerone. That's pretty nice. Yeah, they're probably my favorites. But yeah, chocolate orange. That's my favorite chocolate, I'd say. You should make a top 10 heavyweights of all time. Make these Ameribomb nerds cry. That video may be coming sooner than you think. Sooner than you think. I've got a list already written up. I've had it up for a while, but it's just, getting round to, like, editing and recording the video. But yeah, I'm gonna do a top 10, heavyweights of all time list, you know? If Marciano was on Snack, he would be a middleweight or 154, yeah. Yeah, Marciano would be fighting Amir Khan, you know, if he was on Snack. You can maybe fight him at lightweight, you never know. Gwen Stacy in the Sam Raimi trilogy is much more attractive than MJ. Um, I don't know. Yeah, they're yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I kinda like redheads though, not gonna lie, so yeah. I mean, MJ's a complete sket, but she is quite hot. You know, I don't know, but that's a hard one. I've not looked at either of them in a while, so I need to have a look and see. Yeah, that's it. Jaime Nuippo. That's the anime, and there's a fighter in that anime show who was based on Ricardo Lopez. Yeah, that's right. That's the right thing. That's a great show from what I've seen of it. It's quite entertaining. I've not watched like the whole thing. I've seen like bits and pieces of it. Are you big enough and ugly enough for door work? Well, I'm definitely ugly enough. I don't know about if I'm big enough. I might be too short, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe. No, I mean, I can fight. So you know, who knows? If, maybe that'll compensate for my lack of height. Who knows? I just ate a Domino's. What's your favorite pizza? My favorite pizza is Papa John's. I like Domino's as well, but I prefer Papa John's. That might just be nostalgia though, because I live across from a Papa John's and I've had many a good night, and a memorable night with a Papa John, you know. Zhang has a puncher's chance, but outside of that, Fury would completely school him. Maybe even stop him late due to stamina and strength difference, you know. Bergovich more focused on his wife. Yeah, 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 maybe. Yeah, he's more focused on entertaining her, I guess, than having his career, you know. You can work with Hatman if you do a security job, yeah. Yeah, but well, I don't know if I could ever match up to that though, you know, he's like the biggest, hardest doorman in London, isn't he? So I don't know if I could, I'd feel a little bit like a fish out of water. I'd feel kinda out of place there. I don't think I could match up to that. 28K plus a year. It's not bad. No, Lennox never faced southpaws. There's a reason for that. Ah, interesting. Well, that would give Usyk a good, like, mental advantage going into that fight if he'd never fought a southpaw, you know? Means he'd have to do a lot more, you know? Inoue, Pacquiao, Jones Jr., Usyk, Loma, and Beterbiev are the greatest athletes in boxing. I agree, absolutely. All of those guys you just mentioned are genetic freaks. They're all genetic freaks. They have great athletic ability, you know? And a lot of it is natural, you know? AJ versus Bruno. Do you know, I give Bruno a puncher's chance because Bruno could punch, but I think AJ is a little bit tougher, which isn't saying much because Bruno had a glass chin. But yeah, I think AJ would probably he's probably the better athlete of the 2. I think he's slightly bigger. I think he'd break him down, probably stop him. But I do think that Bruno had a puncher's chance or would have a puncher's chance prime for prime, if that makes sense. Schooling does not equal skills. There's a lot of people out there with no real world skills. There's a lot of people who can't even use a drill or a saw and a hammer. Mate, I can't do nothing. I've got no skills whatsoever. No skills whatsoever. I can't even sweep the floors. I'm not even good at that, you know? I just look at a brush and I look at the floor and I'm like, "Duh, duh, duh." I just start spazzing out and, like, see if you give me anything to do with numbers or anything technical at all, I just can't deal with it. I think I'm just retarded. I can't even tell the time on a 12-hour clock. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. You have no idea how long it took me to learn how to tie my shoes, and I still struggle to do that right, if truth be told, you know? How would Prime AJ deal with Dubois? And Dubois should not really brag about beating a shot AJ. I think Prime AJ would have beaten him. I do. I think Dubois just got him at the right time, and AJ fought like he didn't respect him, like he didn't even care. That's what it looked like to me. You know, he just fought like a dumbass. I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going for a pee. Back in a minute. Okay, where was I? Where was I? I haven't played games in 10 years. Good. It can be a bit of a can be a bit of an addiction sometimes, you know. Apology, man. There's a lot of side hustles. It just requires imagination. I'm investing in a CNC and a 3D printer. Do you know, I thought about getting like a 3D printed gun or something. That'd be quite awesome, you know. Printing my own gun, that'd be cool because you can do that apparently. Wilder versus Bruno, that's an interesting fight. Wilder a puncher's chance, but I could see Bruno getting past that right hand and landing a few like hooks of his own. You know, Bruno had the better punch variety, I would say, and he was probably physically stronger too. He might knock Wilder out. I think I'd favour Bruno. Yeah, there's people who didn't years of schooling almost have no job secure. Yeah, yeah, well, that's true. I know there's people who have degrees who struggle to get a job because they're like overqualified or the degree doesn't really guarantee them anything. You know, like if you have a gender studies degree, what are you gonna do with that? Eh? Be a gender studies teacher, I guess. Ali the hypocrite says, "I want to be my own." He had a white trainer. White people funded him. seemed anti-white, and he insulted Fraser with racial slurs. He should be grateful to whites. Well, he was the modern day Anthony Joshua, wasn't he? Don't shop in their shops, innit? While he's got a white promoter and a white trainer and everything. You know, he's the modern day Anthony Joshua. You get me? Just working any security job probably has better security than office. Yeah. See, that's my thing though. That there's a certain element of freedom, I think, to security work where I could keep my job that I have right now, and like I said before, I could just work the doors on the weekends and work freelance basically and just get my foot in the door. And once I get a little bit of experience, I can put it on my resume. And if I do get like the opportunity to get like a corporate security job or like to get a full-time security gig somewhere, it's something to think about, you know? Because I am thinking long term now, like getting my own house and all that. And I just need the money right now, like, because again, I'm starting to think a little bit more about the future. So the job I've got right now, it suits me at the moment, but I want to get like you say, a side hustle, and I think security is one of them things that would be a good little side earner for now. My uncle just mopped and waxed floors for skyscrapers at night. They paid $50 an hour. Really? Wow, that's all right, isn't it? So that's kinda like a side hustle for him. Like, does he have like a day job aside from that, or is he just living off that, you know? Yeah, Holmes at least proved he could compete with some of the top 90s guys. Yeah, Holmes fought over several eras, and like I was saying before, he was a guy who actually progressed with his skills. He didn't just stay at that same level like Muhammad Ali did and rely on his chin and his durability and his fitness and his athleticism. No, Holmes was a guy who could completely control a fight using his jab and his lateral movement. He would kinda change the trajectory on his jab. He would change the speed on it and everything, and he would completely school and outbox his opponents. He was a very cerebral fighter, and to me, he's the best fighter of that era by far. Holmes versus Fury, I think the difference in that fight would be size. I think Fury's too big. I think he's too big for Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes never beat anybody that big. I think Fury would beat him from long range. He would beat him at the jab game and probably beat him on points. Fury would land like he would get hit here and there. Holmes would land his own shots, but I think Fury would win ultimately. You know, Vlad was a killer versus southpaws. Him and Vitali would be a serious challenge for Usyk. Yeah, Vlad seemed to really learn and study how to fight a southpaw because he had that loss early in his career to Corey Sanders, where I don't think he had much southpaw experience prior to that, aside from fighting Chris Bird. But like when he fought Corey Sanders, he got a nasty shock. He kind of got caught cold. Clearly hadn't sparred properly for that fight. And then after that fight, Vladimir dedicated himself to figuring out how to beat southpaws. So he got numerous southpaw sparring partners. Like he sparred with people like Tony Thompson, for example, and he figured out that style. And you notice when he fought Tony Thompson and when he fought Chagayev and guys like that, and when he fought, what was the other guy? Abragamov. Like, these guys could not avoid Vladimir's straight right hand. Like, it was like a homing missile. Like, he was so accurate against southpaws, it was crazy. Like, he was one of the best at fighting southpaws, I think. Prime Golovkin versus Jermaine Taylor. Nah, Golovkin knocks him out, in my opinion. Breaks him down, knocks him out. Like, that's Jermaine Taylor's fighting style is the perfect style for Golovkin. I think he would do the same thing to him that he did to the likes of Gabe Rosado and Dominic Wade and guys like that. He would just slip his punches a little bit, do that shifting. He would counter and he would break him down and knock him out late. I think Gwen was hotter as well. Yeah, I could see that. It's hard to really say, and I think they were both. I mean, look, by my standard, they were both. You wouldn't say no, put it that way, to either of them. So it's hard to really say. Ron Howard's daughter's a redhead. Yeah, I kinda like redheads. My favorite childhood film is probably Toy Story. Like, it's not my favorite movie ever, but, um, yeah, like, I like it, like, for nostalgia reason. That was my favorite movie as a kid. and it's still, like, up there in my top 10 favorite films. Wasn't Gwen portrayed by Ron Howard's daughter? Who's Ron Howard? I don't even know who that is. I'm out of touch. I don't even know who that is. Why some clowns wanna see Usyk versus Double? I know, man. Look, again, I talked about that earlier. That is so disrespectful having Daniel Dubois come on stage while Usyk's doing his interview. And you see the look on Usyk's face. He just looked fed up. He looked sick and tired of this crap, and he was done with it, you know? Like he's like, "Look, I'm retiring. I can't be dealing with these British heavyweights. I'm sick of beating them." He's like, "I already beat this guy," and he's up on stage saying he wants revenge after I made him quit, after winning every round. I mean, it was just so disrespectful. And then asking him about Moses Itauma in the interview is like, come on, man. Like Usyk looked mortified at at the thought of that. Like them comparing him to that guy or putting that guy in the same sentence as him. It was ridiculous. After he'd just beaten an all-time great heavyweight in Fury and you know established himself as the man in the division. Shocking, man. Ursula is hotter than both. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I like Ursula. She's definitely a better person. She'd definitely be like a better wife than them two, you know, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Would you fight Hatman, Spy? No, absolutely not. He's the hardest bouncer in London. I don't have a death wish. Uh, why does Fury shop in Aldi and buy off-brand when he has 200 mil? I don't know. Aldi's got some nice deals, haven't they? You know, maybe Tesco was too expensive. So yeah, you're restarted. Go work for Alex Jones. Yeah, yeah, I could work for Alex Jones. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Ursula's like she's like the ultimate waifu, isn't she? I like Ursula. I wish that girls like Ursula actually existed in real life. Like, I really wish they did. They don't, sadly, but I wish they did, you know? They'd be the ultimate wives, wouldn't they? Galzagi, easily. He just slapped the shit out of him and went on points, you know? Where was I? I assure you that you have a hidden skill. You just need to identify it and put some issue into developing it. Most people are like that. You know, I hope that you're right, and I hope I find it one day. I hope I find my calling. I hope that I'm actually because I'm 30 years old now, so I'm running out of time. I hope that I find some sort of stable employment, make my fortune, have a um, have like a long-term career plan, with career progression, build up my estate and actually achieve something. Hopefully that there's still time for me in that regard, hopefully. Because 30 years, that's probably like half my life gone. So yeah, let's hope there's still a chance of that. Thoughts on Keyshawn Davis versus Baranchik? Also, don't talk about getting a 3D printed gun in the UK unless you're getting that gun in a video game. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. In quotations, I'm getting it in a video game. It's hypothetical. Yeah, I just want to clarify that. If I were to hypothetically get a 3D printed gun on my computer so I can play Minecraft with it or something, I don't. Yeah. Shout out to Del Boy. Good to see you here, Del Boy. Salute to you too, bro. God bless every time. Yep. Still recovering from the bender. What was Dell on a bender? Oh, glad to hear it. Yeah, this girl from my workplace had a degree in fashion and design, and her first job after leaving uni was working in an egg factory. Yeah. I mean, all that time spent for trying to get that degree, and she ends up working in a factory that she could have done that immediately after school and just saved up the money. She could that would have probably been more wise for her to do that. You're back to 100%. He's fully recovered. He's back to his good old self. Excellent. I like to hear it. Holmes used his left hand to hold down his opponent and then just wail away with his right hand. It was holding and hit. He did do that in some fights. I think that's something he learnt from Muhammad Ali, actually. Probably from all that sparring that they did. Yeah, and I think that that's one criticism you could give it. Speaking of Corey Sanders, Another underrated guy in that era, yeah, would be great in any era. Corey Sanders had like blinding hand speed for a big guy. Really, really fast straight left hand, and he was also just like a very gun ho fighter. Like he was like he had a kamikaze all or nothing attitude. You know, like Butterbean. He'll just go in there and try to take your head off. Either you get him or he gets you. That's the kind of fighter he was. Had several first round knockouts at a pretty high level, I think. You know, just a very, very overly aggressive and in like really sudden explosive fighter. Very, very tough too. Yeah, Fight Scout is just trolling at this point. Imagine Dillian White beating Corey Sanders. Come on now. Yeah, he's just trolling. Unless he's thinking of the other Corey Sanders, because there's another heavyweight called Corey Sanders who wasn't very good. But we're talking about the South African guy who beat Vladimir Klitschko. That Corey Sanders. He was a great fighter. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Usyk thinks UK fighters are bellends, and I don't blame him because he's sick and tired of them. Every time he beats a UK fighter, they bring some other UK fighter in to say, "No, no, but you haven't beaten this guy." You know, it's like he beats AJ, but you haven't beaten Dubois. He beats Dubois, but you haven't beaten Fury. He beats Fury, and it's, "Oh, no, but you need to beat Dubois again because of the low blow," and it's like, I think Usyk's just sick and tired of it now, and they're talking about Moses Itauma in his interviews, like, I think he's sick and tired of British heavyweights, and he's like, "Look, just let me enjoy my victory. Can you guys just give me a break and let me enjoy myself? Like, can you not do that?" You know? Is Eddie Hearn fit? Nah, Eddie Hearn will be back, you know, he's got deep pockets, you know? Usyk should do something crazy and fight Beterbiev at cruiser, providing Beterbiev beats Bivol again. Yeah, I was saying that in my last live. I think that would be a great legacy fight for them two because you know Usyk and Beterbiev have got history. Beterbiev is one of the only guys to ever like really put a beating on Usyk in his boxing career, and you know he also put a beating on Vosdik, you know, who's a good friend of Usyk's and kind of ruined his career. So you can tell that those 2 have got, like, deep history there. They don't like each other and, you know, let's be honest, both guys are, like, close to the end now, so I say make that fight. If they can work out a deal to maybe fight at a catchweight or fight at cruiserweight, I think that's a great legacy fight, and it's a fight that Usyk could convincingly win, but it would be an interesting watch just based on the history there, you know? Give your next title a slot title, like, "It's time to talk about old school heavyweights." Yeah, yeah, with, like, an open mouth thumbnail, and then, like, some sort of, like, AI generated intro or something, like, that's what I could do. "It's time to talk about old school." I'll have a question mark. "Usyk greater than Muhammad Ali?" with a question mark, like, I can do that. And then, like, that'd bait a few normies in, and then I can just start telling them Muhammad Ali was a hype job and he wasn't on Usyk's level. And, you know, he had no defense and Usyk could knock him out with a jab in the first round. You know, I can like exaggerate like that. And you know the normies will just flip out in the comments and it'll be pandemonium, but it'll be quite funny, you know. Tyson Fury buys his Bormy from Aldi's. Yeah, his and his all natural supplements that he puts in it, you know. Your wife is listening, Nordic. I sincerely hope not. Tell you that, I sincerely hope not. I think this David Nika guy looks pretty dangerous. You think he has a chance against Opetaia? Is that the guy Opetaia's fighting? Um, yeah, I don't know who that is. I've never watched him. Yeah, you know, like again, people kept telling me they wanted me to go to university when I was a kid, and I'm like, to study what? What would I even do in university? I don't have any I don't have any, like, ambitions. I don't have any skills. What am I supposed to study? I'd rather just get a job, you know? And then I ended up becoming a NEET for a while, but I had jobs here and there. Saying that, I got my first job at 16, so I did alright in that regard, you know? 30-year-old in Scotland is like 60-year-old in England. You've done well if you get past 40 in Scotland, yeah. Yeah, it's probably half my life gone, innit? At least, you know? Just figure out what I'm gonna do the next 30 years. Hopefully, it's something positive, you know? Corey Sanders versus Zhang would be a great random fantasy fight. Yeah, because that's two very similar guys, you know, two very big, powerful, strong southpaws, weren't in the best shape, but both had like surprisingly fast hands for big guys. Both were very explosive. I got Corey Sanders. I think it would be a shootout, but I think Corey Sanders had the superior stamina of the two, and he would like eventually break him down and stop him. So I would favor Corey Sanders in that fight. Corey Sanders, if he took Vitali serious, could have genuinely dropped him. Nobody shook Vitali like that. See, that was the most I've ever seen Vitali hurt, was when he fought Corey Sanders. Like, he got badly hurt in that fight. Like, don't get me wrong, he came back and kicked his ass and stopped him, but like that left hand he caught Vitali with, if that was Vladimir, he'd have been knocked out again. But Vitali had a much better chin. It was much more durable, and yeah, that was fascinating. Dillian White would get knocked into out against prime Samuel Peter. Yeah, I agree. Samuel Peter in his prime knocks out Dillian White without a shadow of a doubt. Way too durable, way too tough, way too explosive. Yeah, probably similar level technically, but Samuel Peter was more athletic and more powerful, you know. I'm talking about White Corey Sanders would be competitive against White. No, he would knock Dillian White out easily. That stylistically, that's a mismatch. Dillian White doesn't have the chin or the durability to win that fight. No chance. Yeah, Usyk needs to beat a revitalized Dave Allen. Well, Dave Allen like had a good fight against Johnny Fisher, didn't he? So that fight's gonna get him right back into the mix with the like domestic level British heavyweights. So you never know, a couple more performances like that, and he might get a title shot. I mean, stranger things have happened. Derek Chisora got 2 title shots coming off losses, didn't he? So, wouldn't surprise me. Oh, yeah, yeah, that was brutal. You know, where Usyk caught Dave Allen with that counter left hand and had him out on his feet. That was actually quite brutal. It was. The last generation of big stiff heavyweights were a combination of stylistic ability to beat Klitschko brothers, Fury beat Vlad, and these guys were built to be the anti-Fury style. I don't know what you're talking about, really. Like, well, for one, the Klitschko's were never stiff. That was a BS narrative. If you look at the way Vladimir Klitschko moved around the ring, for a 245-pound man who was like 6 foot 6.5, he moved around the ring like a gazelle. Had some of the quickest hands you'll see from a guy that size in his prime. Like, go and look at his fight with Chris Bird, the first fight. Look at Vladimir's footwork in that fight. Look at his balance. That guy was an incredibly fluid boxer, like a great athlete, had great stamina too, and the most accurate jab in the history of heavyweight boxing. Vitali was a little bit more clumsy than Vlad, but Vitali was a lot more like naturally um, he was naturally more of a fighting man. He was a lot tougher. He was actually a little bit more unorthodox and awkward with his style. You know, he would lean out the way of punches. Had more of a reflex-based style, but he had great lead hand control. He could kind of dominate a fight from long range quite easily, and he was a little bit more high volume and aggressive. And Vladimir, you know, he would work the body and things like that, and he'd throw lead uppercuts, things that Vladimir would very rarely do. So they were very different fighters, but they had some of the same attributes. But both of them were elite fighters, and both of them had incredible footwork, incredible balance. They were some of the best heavyweights you'll ever see. You know, they certainly weren't stiff, and a lot of the guys they beat weren't stiff either. You know, particularly if you look at Vladimir's resume, he beat a lot of Olympians, he beat a lot of elite level amateurs, you know, guys who were like elite athletes, you know. He had a better resume than any other heavyweight in history. Like, you could argue Usyk's is better, but Usyk didn't have the number of fights at heavyweight to back it. You know, he hasn't had like 10 years of dominance with all these different styles to his name, all these undefeated contenders to his name. He doesn't have that. Like, he has that to an extent at cruiserweight. He doesn't really have it at heavyweight like Vladimir does, you know. A normie boxing title. How good would this? Were the old school heavyweights actually, yeah, yeah, actually in capital letters. That would be the old school title. Again, with a picture of like a open mouth thumbnail and some like flashy word. Or what I can do is write brutally honest, because that's what they always do. Brutally honest about old school heavyweights. I could say something like that. Something daft. You should put the Tobey Maguire scream from Spider-Man 2 in the intro. Yeah, yeah, should do that. Or the Macaulay Culkin scream from what'd you call it? Um, what's that bloody movie? I watched it. Home Alone. You could have that scream on it as well. That'd be quite funny. That'd draw in a few normies, wouldn't it? Eddie Horn has been caught going on multiple dates with Sky Nicholson. I thought, wait, is that actually true? Because again, I thought that was just a meme as well. I thought that was just a joke. Is that an actual thing? Because I'm pretty sure Eddie Hearn's like married with kids. So if he's doing that, it's a little bit predatory, isn't it? Don't you think? Like, seems a little. It's like that old cliche of like the boss like dating his secretary, but like it being like very creepy and predatory. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Something like that. Anyway. If Usyk changed his name to Alexander Ulster British lad, they would be lining up to fondle his balls. Yeah, they'd be spunking up his back, wouldn't they? They'll be going, "Oh, Alexander." That's what they'd be saying. Yeah, Corey Sanders will never get his just due. It's a bloody shame what happened to him as well. Yeah, you can thank Nelson Mandela for that. You can thank him and his degenerate followers that led to what happened in that country. But yeah, let me not even let me not even get into that. Let me not even bother. Um, W- Vlad could move, but when he punched because stationary. Sorry, let me read that again. Vlad could move, but when he punched became stationary. Oh, are you saying he became stationary when he punches? Well, doesn't every fighter become stationary when they punch? I mean, if you were 250 pounds, try like bouncing on your toes and throwing punches with that pendulum step when you're that weight. It's it's not easy. And I mean he may have been stationary, but generally you plant your feet in boxing to throw a knockout punch, and Vladimir had one of the highest knockout percentages in boxing history. And as far as Vitali having terrible footwork, well, show me someone that outboxed him. Show me someone that was ahead on points against him. It never happened in his career. So his footwork can't have been that bad. I never saw anybody get like foot position on him and walk him down or outbox him. I never saw that happen. Nobody outmaneuvered him or outfought him from what I could see in his career. Vlad's old style when he fought with combination was brilliant. I like the Euro style with combination. Yeah, Vladimir when he was younger was a lot more dynamic and a lot more um, assertive in the ring and aggressive. When he started training with um, when he started training with what's his name, Manny Stewart, he became a lot more like Lennox Lewis. More of a jab grab type. But he still had like elements of his younger style. But yeah, his younger days when he was training with Fritz Sudenek, I think he was definitely a much more entertaining fighter. And that was where he had some of his best performances, like from a fighting perspective, not so much from a tactical perspective, but from a fighting perspective, like where he broke guys down and systematically destroyed them. I think it was a lot more impressive then. Vlad could move, but became all right. But that's the same thing. Vitali's resume is terrible. Thomas Adamek might be his best win besides Corey Sanders. Well, Thomas Adamek is a very good fighter, so that's not a bad win at all. And he was like 40 years old when he fought Thomas Adamek. So that was he was shot. I mean, Vitali was. It wasn't shot, but he was like right at the end of his career. You know, most of these guys the Klitschko brothers beat were just overweight short guys. Oh yeah, because Tony Thompson, who was 6'7", he was an overrated short guy. Ray Austin, who was like 6'6", he was an overrated. He was an overweight short guy. Marius Wach, that what, like 6'8" or something. He was an overrated short guy, wasn't he? Yeah, sure. I mean, even the guys who were shorter than them, like Samuel Peter wasn't short. That guy was like 6'3". Um, how tall was Ibragimov? What, 6'2", 6'3"? A lot of these guys were way bigger than the guys you saw in like the 70s and 60s. You know, I know a guy like Povetkin looks small by the standard of today's heavyweights, but he's still about 6'2" and about 230 or 225 or something. So these are not small guys. These are big lads. If you've ever seen someone who's 6'3", big guys. It's just that Klitschko's happened to be taller than most of their opponents, but they fought guys who were just as tall or even taller, and generally they beat them. I mean, Corey Sanders was taller than Vlad, and Vitali, you saw what he did to him. Yeah, Vitali had a good resume. Not a great resume. Like Vladimir had a great resume. Vitali had a good resume. It was a terrible error in heavyweight boxing. Well, it really wasn't. Again, because I don't think you even I don't like Fight Scout. I don't think you've ever watched a Klitschko fight. I don't think you've actually watched one. Because again, you said before that they were stiff and clunky, and all you'd need to do is watch one fight of either Klitschko, and you'd know that they weren't stiff and clunky. Not even close. Like not even close. They were very fluid athletes. I don't get how someone could sit down and watch a Joe Frazier fight and think he would compete in today's era at elite level. Good for his time, but the sport moves on. I was talking about this earlier, Del, near the start of the stream. Joe Frazier's entire strategy for every single fight would bob and weave, walk forward, and throw the left hook. That is all he did in every single fight. He never did anything else. People were actually shocked to see him throw a right hand. Like, if Joe Frazier threw, like, a lead right hand, it was like seeing a unicorn. His opponents were shocked by it because all the guy would do is bob and weave and throw the left hook. And Muhammad Ali got hit with that left hook over and over and over and over again. Now, when George Foreman fought Frazier, all Foreman had to do was sort of shell up with that cross arm defense, block that left hook and just counter with an uppercut. And it was easy. Like, Joe Frazier was so one dimensional and so easy to hit, it's shocking. Like, it's shocking that he even had a winning record. But that was the era he fought in, where even a guy like that could have a winning record. If Joe Frazier were to fight Vladimir Klitschko, could you imagine? He would just walk straight into that jab. It would probably, like, break his jaw or something, and he would set him up for the right hand and knock him out in the first round. I'm not even joking. It's not even. Oh man, it's ridiculous. What's your favorite Karate Kid? I've only seen the first two, and I've seen a little bit of that, like, woman one with what's her name, Hilary Swank. That was daft, that movie. But yeah, I liked the first one a lot more than the second. I think so. Yeah, I think that's the best movie by far of that series. Ryan Booth showed at one of his vids. Been out to dinner. She was with him at a fight. Yeah, that's a little bit suspect. I think a little bit suspect. Oh yeah, yeah. I'd pick Corey Sanders over Joshua without a doubt. I think Joshua would crap himself as soon as he got hit with that left hand. Probably gets taken out in the first round. I'm not even joking. Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, come on, Fight Scout. You know better than that. What heavyweight doesn't become stationary when he throws a punch? I mean, imagine being 250 pounds at 6'6" and a half and throwing a punch while not being stationary and actually knocking an opponent out. Like, I can't. Fight Scout, I think you're trolling me. I really do. I think you're just taking the mick. I honestly think you're trolling. You cannot tell me you because you're a knowledgeable boxing fan, right? You don't genuinely believe that's like a criticism towards a heavyweight. Again, Vladimir Klitschko dominated heavyweight boxing for years. He had that pendulum step that a lot of these Eastern Europeans have. But obviously, being such a big man, such a heavy-handed guy, if he's going to deliver the knockout blow, he has to plant his feet and step into these punches. That's what's going to happen. And he was able to dominate the division for years, He fought guys bigger than him, he fought guys smaller than him, he fought guys shorter than him, he fought guys from all over the world, and he traveled all over the world for fights. He unlike Muhammad Ali, who generally fought now he did travel, but don't get me wrong, but, like, Muhammad Ali fought in a domestic era of boxing. Vladimir fought in a world era of boxing. He was actually an Olympic gold medalist in an era where that meant something, right? When you're fighting competition from all over the world, right? And he still was able to have the highest statistic the highest statistically accurate jab in the history of heavyweight boxing, the most dominant title run in the history of heavyweight boxing, beat more undefeated, top 10 ranked, world ranked contenders than any heavyweight champion ever, right? There's, I mean, to even suggest he was stiff and he didn't have good footwork and all that, it's just nitpicking. That's all it is. Let's be honest. Absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. And to say the era is weak is just untrue. That era had numerous Olympians. It had elite level athletes. It was one of the first like true worldwide eras of heavyweight boxing where you had genuine elite level athletes from all over the world traveling to fight each other. That era was leagues above any era before it in heavyweight boxing. There are still fighters today who are top level contenders from that era. Guys like Kubrat Pulev and Povetkin, were able to compete against top 3 guys in the past few years. So, yeah, it's like the Klitschko era was I think objectively, it's the strongest era we've ever seen in heavyweight boxing. Like, objectively, I can't see an argument against that. And I know that when Vladimir lost, it was supposedly the golden era. But again, you've got Vladimir's leftovers, guys like Kubrat Pulev still fighting for titles. So it can't have been that bad an era, you know? But then again, now that Usyk has become champion, it's back to being a dead division full of stiff, clunky heavyweights, isn't it? Opinions on Fabio Wardley. I think he got outboxed by Clark in the second. And then in the future, he's gonna try to KO instead of well, I think Fabio Wardley is a big, tough, crude, strong, powerful guy, and I think he's gonna be in some excellent fights, but I don't see him having the kind of schooling to really go that far, and I think he's gonna be a dangerous guy. He's gonna be one of them guys who could beat you on an off night, but at the highest level, he will not be able to mix with the elites. I don't think he has the defense or the skills to do it. But yeah, he'll be in some interesting fights for sure. I have no doubt about that. I was watching an old fight, Vlad fight. He was lighting up his opponent with combos and got knocked down because he gassed out and got KO'd. Are you talking about the what you call it, the Lamont Brewster fight where he was clearly drugged? I mean, that fight was clearly he was drugged in that fight. No doubt about it. Francisco Pietta was 6 foot. Yeah, he was. He was around about that, or 6'5", give or take, something like that. He was a tall guy. Oh yeah, yeah. That especially the rematch. When Chris Bird got knocked out by Vlad, that was brutal. Uh, yeah, and he said that too. When Vlad starts moving, he's moving. Clearly he can. I've seen him outbox. Look at the David Hay fight. He's hitting David Hay on the move with the jab. So I don't know where you get like fights get. You've never watched a Vladimir Klitschko fight in your life. You've never watched him because if you'd actually watched him, you wouldn't be saying that. I don't think you've ever actually watched him. Um, when all the guys Alexander has beat reigned, it was a strong era. When Alexander beat them all, it became a weak era. Yeah, yeah. Again, when AJ and Wilder and that were holding belts, it was a golden era of heavyweight boxing. But then when Usyk comes in and takes those belts, our heavyweight boxing is dead. It's there's nobody around. There's just no contenders. There's no talent. That's the same thing we saw with Klitschko. The exact same thing. You know, it was weak because it was an era with consistent champions who were not Western. Yeah, exactly. Vladimir. dominated the division, and that's why the division was weak because he dominated it. If Vladimir was a Western fighter, he would have become he would have been, like, known as the face of boxing and the greatest of all time. I mean, statistically, he is the greatest heavyweight. There's no doubt about that, and he fought in the strongest era of heavyweight boxing. Without a shadow of a doubt, there was the athletes we saw during the Klitschko era, guys who came through the Olympic, amateur boxing programs, and how big they were, how strong they were, how athletic they were, how skilled they were, how fast they were. You saw nothing like that in any era prior to that. And it's just that the Klitschkos were a cut above the rest. That's all it was, you know? I think people who said Vlad was boring just listened to the bullshit Fury said when grilling him. Yeah, they listened to Western commentators who called him boring when he was actually rather exciting, I think, you know? In some spots, yes. However, when Clark landed more jabs and uppercuts, Wardley was jabbing with Clark, and he would land about 4 or 5 punches in a row and have Clark stomach. See, I thought Clark won the first fight because I went and watched it when I was in Nottingham there. I thought he won it by like a point, but I had no argument with the draw. It was one of them, very close fight. Yeah, yeah. Vlad's fought and beaten at least 10 opponents of his size or even bigger. I mean, again, he and look at the guys he fought who were undefeated when he fought them, when they'd earned their position as mandatories. And the amount of different style of fighters he fought, fighters from all over the world. Nobody else in heavyweight boxing has a resume like him. Nobody. Nobody even comes close, you know? I don't think the K-Bro era was terrible. Not great, but certainly not terrible. Guys from the K-Bro era had success in this era despite being years past it. I mean, Alexander Povetkin, who was considered like the second tier heavyweight after the Klitschko's during their prime. He went on to knock out Dillian Whyte when he was like 40 years old, and Dillian Whyte was ranked number 3 at heavyweight. I mean, we talked about this at the time. He's knocking out the ranked number 3 heavyweight years after losing to Vladimir Klitschko. So, I mean, the division can't have been that bad, you know? You don't often find 6'6" top fighters in the norm, around 6'4" for most heavyweights. Yeah. Yeah, 6'4" is like the average height for like a heavyweight, I think. Pretty much, you know? The Klitschko era and this era aren't too different, just different faces at the top. Exactly. It's just that the guys who were top contenders in the Klitschko era are now like 40-year-olds who are still competing, some of them, you know? I mean, you couldn't make that up, seriously. Again, Kubrat Pulev has a title right now. A guy who was absolutely demolished by like a 38-year-old Klitschko. I mean, come on, man. That says it all, doesn't it? Vitali fought 2 or 3 guys his height. Lennox was heavy, went heavy, expected to manhandle Vitali despite despite being heavier. That didn't happen. Manuel Stewart has spoken about this, yeah. Yeah, that was why Lennox kind of bulked up. He was hoping to use his size and his strength, but he got a beating in that fight, and yeah, the ringside doctor saved him. Because if they didn't stop that fight, Lennox did not have the energy to get through it. He was on the verge of getting knocked out. And that was why they had to save him. Vlad's best performances were against guys of his size. That criticism aimed at he was yeah, again, the guys who troubled Vladimir tended to be shorter guys, ironically enough. When he fought guys who were taller or his size, he usually beat those guys with ease. He usually took those guys out in like 2 rounds. Like, look at his fight with Ray Austin or his fight with Tony Thompson in the rematch. Like, when he fought someone who was taller than him or who had a longer reach than him, he usually was able to fight his old style and break them down, like, with ease. That's how he did so much better against taller guys, like, throughout his career. It was the smaller, more awkward guys that he had issues with, you know? Like, guys of David Hayes' size, guys of Chris Bird's size, you usually had to work a little bit harder to pin those guys down and stop them, you know? Vlad was a kickboxer. He had those flaws of that style. When Fury and Joshua beat him, that was a conclusive ending to his career. Well, no, because he was 41 years old and He really could have won both of them fights. I mean, the Joshua fight, he was comprehensively winning, knocked him down, and was outboxing him easily. He just got stopped prematurely in the 11th round by a corrupt referee after AJ fouled by, like, grabbing him behind the head and pulling him onto an uppercut. Um, when he lost to Fury, that fight really could have gone either way. It was very close. Fury just he used his superior foot speed because Fury was a lot younger, a lot fitter at that stage of his career. He was able to move around and just and peck away at his guard and pick up the points from long range. But still, if you look at the punches landed, it was actually very, very close, that fight. It's just Fury outlasted him and outmaneuvered him. But that wouldn't have happened with a prime Klitschko. Like, a prime Klitschko would have caught him and knocked him out, like, no doubt about it. So you can't look at again, that's like looking at, like I was talking about earlier, Muhammad Ali getting, like, battered by Larry Holmes. That's like basing his entire career on that. That's like talking about Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Kevin McBride and Danny Williams. Like Danny Williams and Kevin McBride knocking out Mike Tyson. That's like basing Mike Tyson's entire career on that. And by the way, Mike Tyson was younger, considerably younger than Vladimir was when he lost his last two fights. So again, it's judging him by the AJ and the Fury fight is just ridiculous. It's ludicrous if truth be told. You know, Wardley might be the only UK heavyweight I really like right now, personally. I mean, yeah, I don't know what he's like personally, but I know he's a very, very dangerous guy. You know, he kind of looks like a doorman, doesn't he? Like you could see him being like a big, tough, hard man from the street. The David Haye fight is the best example of Vlad's foot speed. I know the Mo athletic statement is a bit of a meme. I think Vlad was the greatest athlete the heavyweight division has seen. Yeah, I mean, look, no, you will very, very rarely see a guy that's like 250 pounds and can move like that for 12 rounds, throw in a consistent jab, controlling his opponent, setting his feet and then taking him out with the knockout punch, like in the last like look at how he was able to knock out Eddie Chambers in the last 5 seconds of that fight, which was a pretty grueling fight where there was a lot of punches thrown. That guy had phenomenal stamina for such a big man. He certainly was. Oh, here we go. Yeah, he had a broken toe, yeah. That's the best, like, excuse ever, isn't it? "I broke my toe about 3 weeks ago." Yeah. Oh, that brings back memories. Good times. The thing about Hay and Klitschko is they had the same angle of attack. It's more of a hallway fight, it actually seems. Well, no, what happened in that fight was Klitschko took the center of the ring immediately, got the jab going, and David Haye immediately started falling to the canvas to try and get away from punches, as a tactical move to get the referee on his side. David Haye couldn't get past the jab, so he had to literally drop his hands, lean into punches, bend forward, and try to counter over the jab with his overhand right. That was his only chance. It's just that Vladimir's footwork was so great, and his parrying ability, his ability to tuck his chin under his elbow or tuck his chin under his shoulder and block the right hand. He had it completely timed. So David Haye was under full control from the first round, and he was just in pure survival mode. Like, there was nothing he could do. Like, seriously, look at when David Haye threw the right hand. Vladimir would just step back, s- you know, s- poke the jab out there, tuck his chin behind his shoulder. David Haye couldn't touch him. When he tried to throw the left hook, Vlad would just parry it with his right hand. So that was why Haye was in survival mode and why he was just stuck on the end of the jab all night. Like, he literally couldn't do anything. It was that one-sided a fight. The ring style is dissed. It was more so Vlad was respectful to his opponent. Well, yeah, because Vlad had like that kind of gentleman persona, didn't he? He didn't really trash talk like a lot of those guys did. Yeah, yeah. The Klitschko era, people hate on it because they were white, because they weren't the Johnson brothers. You know. Povetkin also gave Joshua a very good fight despite being considerably older and smaller. Exactly. Povetkin was pushing 40 and he was still winning that fight before the stoppage, as far as I'm concerned, you know? The only thing that puts a sour taste for Vlad was the spoiling he did in some of his fights, like Povetkin fight, and his political shenanigans, like the spongy ring canvas. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot you can criticize Vladimir for, but he still has the best resume in boxing history in heavyweight. You know, Vlad resume: Brewster, Hay, Pulev, Jennings, Watt, Bird, Peter. This is better than most of this era. Yeah, that's just a handful of his opponents. You know, I don't even think those were his best wins, if truth be told. You know. Those are again, those are just a handful of them. Oh, and let's not forget about an ancient shot. Marius Wach is a good test for the roided to the gills prospects when Vlad beat him at his peak cricket. Mate, I remember full well when Vladimir Klitschko chose Marius Wach as an opponent, right? I think Wach at that point in time he was undefeated. I think he was like 27-0. And about a year or two before then, you might remember this. About a year or two before then, people were talking on like forums and all that about, oh, Marius Wach, he's this dangerous guy. He might knock out Vladimir Klitschko because he's so big and he's got this great chin. And I remember Dwyer made a video talking about Marius Wach. This was like 2 years before the fight happened or something and saying he was like a dangerous contender. Then, like out of nowhere, the fight got signed. Vladimir chose Marius Wach as I think he was an optional title defense. I don't think that was even mandatory. I think they chose Wach as an optional title defense because they wanted a big guy. You know, they wanted to fight a big opponent, someone bigger than him, and someone to test him. And he got so much criticism, despite the fact that Wack, prior to that, was considered a genuine test, a genuine like danger man in the division. People started saying that Vladimir was a cherry picker for fighting Wack. It's oh, why is he fighting this guy? This guy hasn't fought anybody. This guy's just a big useless lump and all that stuff. So Vladimir beats the absolute piss out of him, gives him like one of the most one-sided beatings you'll ever see. And then to this day, like years and years later, like you say, Marius Wach in his mid 40s, like years and years after that Vladimir Klitschko loss, is still a dangerous test for any like of these current heavyweight prospects. You know that they're not sure if these current heavyweight prospects are good enough yet to be a shot mid 40s Marius Wach. But when Vladimir Klitschko fought him, he got no credit whatsoever for that fight. No credit whatsoever. Like, I can remember that so clearly when people were literally calling again, even though Wack was considered a dangerous contender 2 years before then, when Vladimir signed to fight him, and he's even better at this point, he's, like, in the best shape of his career. He's in, like, his late 20s or something, like, early 30s, late 20s, something like that. And then they gave him no credit. But these like current contenders and prospects, fringe contenders at heavyweight are still not sure if they're good enough to beat Marius Wach. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about this current heavyweight division. You know, Joe Lewis and Vladimir have similar resume. Lewis is ranked two. Well, Lewis fought mostly bums all his career and a lot of fixed fight and he had the bum of the month club where he would fight every month, and the opponents would just be brought straight off the couch to fight him. So Vladimir actually had his opponents actually had training camps, and they were actually world class contenders. So Vladimir's resume is significantly better than Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis was kind of a manufactured fraud, but Vladimir was actually a genuine world class heavyweight champion. Yeah, Joe Louis was knocking out a lot of short white bums. Vlad was knocking out a lot of short black bums, yeah. Well, they both knocked out a lot of, like, fighters of different races, but, Lewis fought basically on a domestic scene, in America with a bunch of set up fights, whereas, Vladimir actually fought world-class contenders. He actually fought his mandatories, He had no choice. Yeah, yeah. Joe Louis is very overrated. It wasn't just the foot speed, it was the balance and the coordination to go along with it. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best balance you'll ever see for such a big man in the ring, without a doubt. Without a doubt. David they have a broken camel toe after getting. Yeah, I'm not even gonna repeat that, but that's funny. Oh, that's funny. I watched that fight back and actually don't think Hay was as bad as I remembered. He was just in with a bigger, better fight. Yeah, David Hay tried. Like in the first few rounds, David Hay had a game plan. You know, he was trying to counter over the jab with his overhand right and try to draw the lead from Vladimir. Try and get him to throw the right hand so he could counter with his left hook. Hay would throw haymakers, right? He's trying to draw the lead from the bigger man so he can get the early knockout. But when that didn't work, when he realized he couldn't compete with Klitschko, he just went into survival mode and decided to jump to the floor and try to get points deducted and a DQ and just try to survive. That's basically what he did, you know? Hay probably came around too early. I actually think he would start AJ and Wilder. I agree. Like David Hay in this day and age of the heavyweight division would have a much better chance than he had um in the Klitschko era because there's nobody like Klitschko. There's nobody with that kind of physical ability and skill. So I don't think David Hay would be in much danger nowadays. You know, David Hay had the attributes and the speed, um, as well as the explosive knockout power to beat anybody at heavyweight today, except maybe Usyk, who's just on another level technically. You know. Yeah, yeah. Hay stunk up the joint after all that talk because he really there's nothing else he could do. He couldn't compete with Klitschko. He was just too good for him. You know. I rate Vitali higher than Vlad as a pure fighter or head to head, but Vlad had a better resume. Yeah, I agree with that. Vitali was much tougher. He had a much better chin, but Vladimir was a much more accomplished fighter of the two, and I think Vladimir had better boxing skills and better punching technique and all that stuff. You know, when you say one-sided, I just think of that David Hay quote. Yeah, it's as one-sided as a gang rape. That's what he says. You know. What you reckon was on that USB that he had in the AJ presser? You reckon it had Fury making Vlad walk out the sauna first? You never know. You know, I don't even wanna know what was on that USB. Sounded a little bit suspect to me, you know? I don't think we'll ever find out. Yeah, yeah, that's what's on the USB, jab and clinch. That's what I'm gonna do, imagine. They said Odlin Solis was a threat to Vitali. Yeah, if you guys want to see a good laugh, go and watch Dwyer's prediction for Odlin Solis versus Vitali, and look at the amount of people back then who said that Solis would beat Vitali. And I remember laughing about that at the time, thinking it was funny. You know, I really did. What workouts do you do in the gym? Well, I box 3 days a week. So like hit the bag, the pads, like spar, like whatever I can do. Maybe stomach some circuit training, even though I don't like it. But if I'm asked to do it, I can deal with it. And then when I go to my other gym, like my weightlifting gym, I do the four main barbell lifts. So I do deadlifts, squats, overhead press, bench press, chin ups as kind of like a supplementary exercise, and very rarely, occasionally, I'll do like pull ups and then like run on a treadmill occasionally, but not very often. It's mostly strength and conditioning that I do in the gym when I'm not boxing, basically, you know. But again, I've been off over the holidays, so I might have gained a little bit of weight in that from gyms being closed and me being sitting about doing nothing, you know. But first thing Monday, I'm gonna be training again and getting back on my diet, hopefully, you know. Harley would always avenge Vlad's losses in quick order in a few rounds, yeah. Yeah, like, Corey Sanders, you know. A as well, Vladimir, avenged Vitali's loss to Chris Bird. He defeated him twice, you know. They might Marius Wach is like the Sandman to Tommy Fury's Peter Parker. He puts the fear of God in him, and is afraid that his MJ Molly May will be harmed by his vicious Easter Island-headed beast, yeah. Yeah, Marius Wach's a scary guy, and you can imagine him on the doors. Like, nobody's starting any drama then, are they? Yeah, that guy's chin was crazy. Probably the best chin I've ever seen, you know? The narratives are so hilarious, sometimes. Usyk is too small, but Triple G is a weight bully at super middleweight. Haney and Benavidez are somehow not weight bullies, yeah. Only an idiot normie would say that, you know? Where was I? Have you ever cared about football? No. Never been a fan of football. It's never interested me in the slightest. I think, a prime Hay would give Usyk a tougher fight than Joshua Fury. Yeah, yeah, I agree stylistically because Hay had the speed and the power, like, and was, you know, he had a long reach for someone of his height, but he also was good at, like, getting low and throwing punches over the top. You know, he was good against, like, fundamental back foot boxers, so he would have a puncher's chance against Usyk. I do think Usyk would figure him out and probably stop him late though, or win on points. I think he would win, but definitely not an easy fight. Chris Bird was a highly skilled boxer. He had a great ring IQ. He was super slick and tricky. But Vladimir was much greater. A big man will always beat a great little man. Oh yeah, look. Well, what impresses me about those fights is, like Vladimir, despite being, like, so tall and so heavy compared to Chris Bird, Vladimir seemed to have the quicker feet, and he was able to get foot position on Chris Bird all night in that first fight and put Chris Bird up on the ropes, and Chris Bird had to basically resort to slipping and sliding and showboating, but he barely threw any punches because every time he did, Vladimir would just hit him with a straight shot and put him back into his, put him in his place basically. Like Chris Bird was under control that entire fight. And if you look at the rematch, Vladimir was a lot more confident in the rematch because he found Chris Bird a little bit easier to read. So in the rematch, he just took it right to him, smacked him all about the ring, and brutally knocked him out, and pretty much ended Chris Bird's career at world level. So yeah, that's another fight I like to rewatch, like the well, both fights, you know, the Klitschko Chris Bird fights. Yeah, yeah, he does. Marius Wach does look like a Bond villain. He's like, what's his name? That Jaws guy, isn't he? You know, the guy with the metal teeth, the big guy. You know, the what's his name? What's that actor's name? He was in Happy Gilmore, wasn't he? That I forget, but he kind of looks like that guy, doesn't he? Like just a big, scary looking, dark, like hard man. You know. Vladimir Klitschko was always criminally underrated by all of the haters and casual boxing fans. But yeah, it's like I was saying when Klitschko was on top, you know, the heavyweight division was, you know, a weak era. There was no competition, none of that stuff. But as soon as AJ and Wilder had them belts, all of a sudden it's the golden age. But then Usyk gets those belts and it's back to being a weak era, you know. It's back to being nothing. Shout out to Fight Film. Good to see you here, bro. I can't believe what I was hearing. Vitali taught a footwork masterclass. All heavyweights should study versus Chisora and Areola. Oh yeah, Vitali's fights with Chisora and Areola, they kind of remind me of what I was talking about earlier about Larry Holmes when he took on Tex Cobb. You know where he's just moving around him, you know, using lateral movement and changing the trajectory on his jab and just busting him up with the jab all night, absolutely pulverizing the guy, just busting up his face, schooling him easily, having him completely timed and completely under control and just winning every second of every round. That was what those fights were like, the Chisora and Areola fights. Like Chisora and Areola were kind of like big, strong, stocky, tough guys who came forward and threw a lot of shots. But Vitali was able to sort of tame them. You know, it's like the matador taming the bull. And he again he did so with his footwork and his lateral movement and his jab, and he just absolutely toyed with them. Like the Chris Arreola fight was so one-sided. Arreola, who's like a genuine tough guy, like a really, really hard guy, like extremely tough mentally and physically. He broke down in tears He couldn't believe it how one-sided the fight was, how he couldn't touch Vitali, he couldn't hit him with anything clean, and Vitali just completely and utterly pulverized him from long range the whole fight. And yeah, that broke Chris Arreola mentally. He couldn't handle it. With Chisora, that was an older, past his prime Vitali. I think he was like, what, 40, 41 in that fight, something like that. So, yeah, he wasn't quite as explosive or as fast, but it was a similar sort of domination where again he just schooled him from long range, had him bleeding out the mouth, had him completely timed, walking into punches all night. It's crazy. That's what you call a masterclass, in my opinion. You know what Vitali was able to do in them fights. You know, where do you think Triple G ranks on the all-time list? Well, I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, middleweight champions of all time. He only ever really accomplished anything at middleweight as a pro, so yeah, it's hard to say how he would have done in other divisions, but yeah, in middleweight, he's definitely one of the best. Probably the best like technician I've ever seen at middleweight. One of the biggest punchers too. So yeah, very very good fighter. Yep, absolutely. Happy New Year. Fury can't say a good big man beats a small good man because if that's true, means Fury is bad. Yeah, but Usyk's like he's the exception to the rule. Like very rarely would a fighter of Usyk's size be able to do what he did to a guy Fury's size. You know, it's just that Usyk is that great. You know, don't expect to see that very often in the heavyweight division. You know, whenever people talk about the most title defenses at heavyweight, they mention Joe Louis and the Larry Holmes. They don't mention Vladimir. Yeah, even though Vladimir fought far better competition, like I said earlier, than Joe Louis. Joe Louis invented the whole bum of the month club thing where they would fight someone every month and they would just take the guy off the couch, not give him any time to train, and they were all handpicked fights. You know, manufactured easy fights. Whereas Vladimir actually had to fight world competition. You know, he had to fight mandatories, and he had to fight guys of all different shapes and sizes, all different skill sets, styles, attributes. You know, guys of different ages, guys of different like heights and reach. Like Vladimir fought probably the most diverse crop of like contenders you've ever seen in heavyweight boxing. You know, from what I can tell. Oh yeah, the Bird rematch, that was around about peak Vlad. I think round about that time. When was that fight? What, 2006, 2007? I think around about then, around about 2007 was Vladimir's peak. You know, when he was like 31, 32, something like that. That was him at his absolute peak, I think. At least physically. He did improve his skills a bit later, but that was physically him at his peak. Richard Kiel, is that the guy's name? Yeah, yeah, he kind of reminds me of Marius Wach. That guy, he does, you know. Rappers are culturally appropriating Jaws teeth from Bond, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, they are. You ever hear about the Mandela effect where the chick in that movie was supposed to have braces and apparently she doesn't? I heard about that. It's kinda strange that one, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, yeah. Chris Bird was leagues above Muhammad Ali in terms of technical skill. Like, he wasn't as athletic as Ali, but he was technically a lot better and definitely a lot more awkward and elusive in the ring. Had quicker hands too, without a doubt. Watch Adamek Briggs won last night. Such an underrated fight, absolute bloodbath. Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal, that fight. Have you ever seen Adamek versus Cunningham? That was another fantastic fight. The first one. The second fight was okay, but the first fight was fantastic. Adamek versus Cunningham. It's a great fight. Yeah, Chris Bird was a good fighter. Like, he was a bit of a spoiler. It was a bit boring to watch, but he was a good technical fighter, and he was very, very awkward. And he was one of the like smaller size heavyweights who was able to frustrate bigger guys and outbox them a lot of the time. Again, he was kind of similar to David Haye, but didn't have the speed or power of David Haye. But he was a lot more technically skilled, and he was a lot more elusive, and had great timing. Just a very, very difficult guy to fight and an absolute nightmare to fight, if truth be told. One of these guys you would just hate to have as an opponent, 'cause it'd be difficult to really get him pinned down in a position where you want him, you know? Another 2 Vitali opponents still fight, pulled off an upset, and the other flattened Ruiz, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's what I was saying before, like, guys who are, like, 2nd tier fringe contenders from the Klitschko era are now, like, top level heavyweight contenders right now. Kubrat Pulev holds a title right now. Who would have thought that back in 2014 when he got absolutely brutally knocked out by Klitschko, who was, like, 38 at the time? Like, who would have predicted that? Seriously. Have you seen the new Gladiator movie? No. No, I've not seen it, but I heard it was complete crap, so I never bothered. Wasn't even that big a fan of the first Gladiator, if truth be told. It was alright, I didn't like it that much, though. Yeah, Henry Cooper was robbed. Like, look, Henry Cooper knocked Ali out, right? And they literally stopped the fight, gave Ali like 10 minutes to recover, gave him stimulants and drugs. The guy didn't know where he was concussed. They had to wake him up. They had to cut the glove to, to give him more of an excuse to get more time to recover. Then they sent him out there and he wins the fight on a cut caused by a clash of heads. I mean, it doesn't get more, corruption doesn't get worse than that, you know? Golovkin would have legitimately obliterated De La Hoya of 2004 that was in there with Hopkins and Sturm. Yeah, does De La Hoya last 3 rounds against Triple G? I don't think so. I think he gets absolutely knocked out. Excellent stream. Salute Nordic. Yeah, yeah, salute to you, man. God bless you, man, every time. Joe Louis fought domestic guys, pulled out of construction sites and bars. Vladimir fought world level full time athletes with training camps, PUDs, high level training. There is no comparison. Yeah, absolutely. Sums it up perfectly. Joe Louis had the bum of the month club list. Vladimir Klitschko had genuine mandatory challengers from all over the world who were elite athletes to fight, you know? Be back in a minute, just go to the toilet. Right. All right, where was I? Let me see. For me, Golovkin is peak boxing. Yeah, yeah. I watched. Do you know what fight I watched recently? I went back and watched the Golovkin Brook fight, and it's crazy. When I watched that fight live, I thought it was competitive. See, watching it now, I don't even think I don't think Brook won a single round. He actually got outlanded and outworked in every single round of that fight. And it's interesting how like fast and accurate Triple G's jab was, how great his timing was, how he would slip punches, how good a counter puncher he was. How great like he was at setting up his hooks and getting them over the guard and stuff like that. Like Triple G was next level in terms of his like technical ability. I think he was the best. If he wasn't the best athlete, I think he was at least the best technical fighter I've ever seen at middleweight. Like, his technical boxing skills were fantastic, you know? So, yeah, definitely think he's one of the best middleweights ever, you know? I've noticed that the ladies who were fangirling over Joshua like teenagers and wanted his children have been noticeably more quiet since his meltdown moment after the Usyk rematch, yeah. That's just how it is. I mean, it's a bit of a turn off, I'd imagine. I don't know because 'cause I'm not a woman, but, like, I'd imagine it's a bit of a turn off seeing a man get, like, brutally knocked out or seeing him get, like, absolutely dominated in the ring, you know? It's not, you know, it's to be expected. Women would prefer a winner than a loser, you know? They prefer a winner, is what it is. De La Hoya didn't belong at middle at all. Golovkin goes through him like a Vindaloo curry, yeah. Yeah, he goes through him, then he shits him out like a Vindaloo curry, you know? I wish they let Fraser out the last round of the Ali fight. Well, if, folklore is anything to go by, if they did that, it would have been a TKO win for Fraser because Ali apparently quit on his stool. But then Fraser's corner basically threw him under the bus by flipping stopping the fight, you know, which is a real shame. But, you know, like I said earlier in the stream, Joe Frazier just walks forward, bobs and weaves, throws the left hook over and over again. Very rarely does he throw the right hand. He was just so limited and predictable. One of the most overrated heavyweights in history, if truth be told. And the fact he beat Ali is quite shocking when you think about it, you know? Sturm comprehensively outboxed De La Hoya. Yeah, he did. He schooled him behind a jab. Won very clearly, and that was a De La Hoya got a gift decision. That was a very bad decision that night, you know? Errol Spence was alright in his prime. He was good. You know, he was a good, like, inside pressure fighter. Like, to me, Errol Spence is kinda similar. I put him in the same level that I'd put someone like Josh Taylor, you know, very, very strong, very well coordinated inside, you know, could bend at the waist, could throw, you know, brutal hooks and uppercuts inside, quite good footwork, quite good timing, very good fighter. But I think Errol Spence's problem was like lack of consistency, stayed in the wrong weight division too long, and just it ruined his health. Didn't always live the life outside of the ring. Like that's the thing with Errol Spence. I don't think he ever saw out his potential, you know. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know how good he could have been. But I think he was a good solid like I give him a benefit of the doubt and say he was a solid A level fighter, but not for very long. His prime was kind of short lived. Yeah, I agree. Errol Spence wasted his talent. I agree. You know, no doubt about it. Golovkin fights are definitely some of the best to go back and watch. Yeah, yeah, definitely. He's great to watch. Like if you wanna understand like boxing fundamentals, punching technique and all that good stuff, Golovkin's one of the ones to watch, without a doubt. He's one of the ones to watch, you know. Yeah, moral of the story, don't get knocked out in front of your girl. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, I wonder if my women would like, if my missus would just leave me if I got, like, violently knocked out. Do you reckon she would? She probably would, to be fair, you know? And that means I could be free and single, and I'd be happy again. He wasn't so humble that night. Yeah, yeah, he wasn't humble at all that night. I thought it was so funny. See that night that happened? And AJ gave that speech, somebody on Twitter posted a meme, and I think I talked about this before. It was that guy, do you know from Come Dine With Me, that TV show in the UK? And there was that guy who lost, and he was like, he was reading out the winner thing, and he went like, "You won, Jane. I hope you're happy. You won. You ruined my night. Now take your money and get off my property." Like someone actually posted that. For Anthony Joshua. I thought that was so funny. Like, that was one of the funniest memes I've ever seen. It was. I guess the women are going with Dubois now. Yeah, yeah, Dubois is gonna get all the, like, groupies in the UK, innit? Instead of AJ. I wonder what would have happened in an alternate universe if Adrian actually cheated on Rocky with Clubber Lang. "Hey, bring your pretty little ass over to my apartment, and I'll show you a real man." Oh, that was funny. Mr. T was so funny, wasn't he? He really was. Have you ever been shredded Nordic? I've not. I've been like jacked. I wouldn't say I've been shredded. Like I'm kind of jacked right now. I'm quite big, you know. But I wouldn't say I've ever been like full on shredded. No, I like my food a little bit too much for that, you know. We couldn't put that to the test, Nordic. How come that you gym? Oh yeah, you can come to the gym, like knock me out in front of my missus and see if she goes home with you. You know, hey, you can take her off my hands, innit? I'll be fine. I can go back to playing video games all day and not have a woman to nag me, you know? I can get myself like one of them AI waifus, you know? I can get myself one of them and that'll be fine. Be a lot less hassle. Most of these nerds think that Joe Frazier would beat Derek Chisora in a round or two. When it comes to athletes from the past, you don't see this delusion with any other sport. Mate, Joe Frazier's like what, 20, 30 pounds lighter, maybe even more than Chisora. He's like a few inches shorter, and all he does is throw the left hand. That's all he does. But, I mean, that's literally all he does. Um, he just walks forward, throws the left hook. Chisora would just like tie him up inside and maul him, and throw hooks and uppercuts, and probably stop him in a few rounds. Don't start a fight in front of your children. I don't have any children yet. Maybe quite soon, but yeah, not yet. Yeah, I love that clip from "Come Down With Me." I just thought, like, I thought it was so, like, fitting for that, like, to be posted at that exact moment on that night, like, with Anthony Joshua, like, it was just so fun. Like, the way he grabbed the belts and threw them out the ring, and he's like, you won," like, it was just so funny. Like, that meme was just so appropriate, so funny. I want the single life Nordic, so she might leave with nobody. Yeah, yeah, she might just leave me anyway. Who knows, you know? These days, Rocky would tell Clubber to stop bragging about taking his side piece because he don't. Yeah, don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece. Oh, that was embarrassing, wasn't it? It's funny though. People say Alexander Povetkin was nothing special because he lost to Klitschko, but their favorite heavyweight boxer would also lose to Klitschko. Yeah, yeah, of course they would. And their favorite heavyweight boxers would lose to Povetkin too because he was a badass, you know. Yeah, Povetkin probably had the best like highlight reel knockouts of any heavyweight I've ever seen. Like he was. I know Mike Tyson had a lot of crazy knockouts, but his were mostly like TKOs. But Povetkin, when he hit a guy right, they were like out cold immediately, you know? Would you rather drink a gallon of Diet Iron Brew or spend the night with Megan the Sta who's Megan the Stallion? I don't even know who that is. What is that, like a tranny or something? Povetkin from 2013, 2016 would give any heavyweight serious problems. Do you know, I'll go one step further. If Povetkin was around in any era aside from the Klitschko era, like, I honestly think he would have been, like, a dominant heavyweight champion. I honestly do. It's just that he happened to be parallel in his prime with Vladimir Klitschko, so yeah, he got like the short end of the stick there. But I do think if he were like at his prime now, he would be a dominant heavyweight champion, and he would have been like in any previous era. I genuinely do think that. She's like a twerking rapper. I've never heard of her. Never heard of her. Povetkin KO White was funny. He silenced the commentator. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The commentators were like saying, "Oh, he's got no chance. He's on his way out. He's had the fight beaten out of him." Boom, lands that lead uppercut. Beautiful. Oh yeah, Povetkin versus Hook was a badass fight. I like rewatching that fight from time to time. It's a great fight, and that's one of them fights. Every time I watch it, my mind changes on who I thought won. Like one day I'll think Hook won it. I'll watch it again. I'll think Povetkin won it. Like, could easily have been a draw, like, very, very close fight, you know? And it was a very technically interesting fight to watch too, you know? I agree he would have been dominant if the Klitschko's didn't exist, yeah. If the because again, he was like the 2nd tier title holder back then, so, like, If the Klitschkos weren't there, Povetkin would have been, like, the major champion of the division, no doubt about it. Because nobody would have been able to keep him under control like the way Vladimir did, you know? And he had to basically ride him like a rodeo to get him under control, so I don't think anyone else at that time period would have been able to do it. Would you would be shocked how women/people slash people how c can turn on you. Yeah, anyone can turn on you, you know? It only takes, one argument or something, doesn't it? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Funniest thing about the White KO was that White landed on the Matchroom Toblerone. Yeah, he did, like, he fell onto the Matchroom Toblerone and knocked it off. Yeah, so it was, like, symbolic of this could be the end of Matchroom boxing as we know it, because you know, White was one of their, like, biggest earners aside from AJ at that point in time, wasn't he? So that was quite interesting. That was, again, like a portent of things to come because Matchroom did go downhill big time after that when you think about it, you know? It's quite interesting. Huck was a hard-nosed bastard. Oh, yeah, Huck was a seriously hard man. Seriously tough, you know, a real rough, tough guy, would get inside and maul you, hit you with hammer fists and all that, like, very dangerous guy, and he could also box a bit too. Had great, boxing fundamentals, so and I think that's an underrated win on Povetkin's resume, and it's also an underrated win on Usyk's resume. Like, again, Usyk is an all-time great, from what he did at cruiserweight alone, and I think that Marco Huck win, although he was a little bit past his prime, I think the way he beat Huck, which was more like one-sided than anybody, like he completely tamed him and had him under control. That was a underrated victory, I'd say. And he did it in his backyard, which is even more impressive, you know. Povetkin would have sparked Wilder when Wilder would have gone wide-eyed where he heard those war drums and chants from the crowd. Mate, could you imagine that if Wilder had gone to Moscow, Russia, and he'd heard those dun 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 Rus dun 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 Rus, and then Povetkin comes at him. Wilder like swings a big like wide right hook. Povetkin would bob under it, weave, come up top with a big left hook of his own, and he would knock Wilder out cold. That would have been a brutal highlight reel knockout. That's what that would have been, you know, for Povetkin. Povetkin would have won it, no doubt about it. CPB, that fight took place above White's B sample burial site. Yeah, yeah. What happened to the B sample? Still haven't found it. It disappeared off the face of the planet, didn't it? The LDBC would have been crying worse than the Brazilians during the World Cup 2014 semi-final against Germany if Povetkin fought Wilder, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Germany won the World Cup then. I remember that. Germany. He wouldn't have won the fight if it wasn't in Germany. You think that you could have beat the Tyson that Jake Paul beat? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Well, I mean, I'm 30 years old. I could probably beat Jake Paul, but the thing is, I think that I don't know because I think that fight was fixed. I don't think that was an accurate representation of what even a 50-odd-year-old Mike Tyson can do. I think Mike Tyson could have knocked out Jake Paul if he tried, but he was pulling his punches. So I'd definitely beat Jake Paul if I fought him. I'd probably make him quit if truth be told, but don't know if I'd beat Mike Tyson. Even now, he's a heck of a lot bigger than me, and he hits a lot harder than me. So probably not if truth be told. Wilder ducked Povetkin. He knew an ass would have got slept in Russia. He would have never fought overseas until Turkey offered him. Yeah, it's interesting how as soon as Wilder starts fighting overseas, all of a sudden his opponents stop fancy danning around and they start actually throwing punches at his chin and knocking him out. All of a sudden, that starts happening, you know? I genuinely don't think Wilder would have won a round against Povetkin. I don't either. I don't think the fight would have gone more than like 4 or 5 rounds. I think Povetkin would have got inside. Wilder would have been so clueless and you know, he would have been unable to see the punches coming. Povetkin would have caught him with a big hook or a big uppercut, and it would have been a highlight reel knockout. I think Povetkin would have got inside, knocked Wilder out, and made it look easy. I really do. To be fair to the commentators, Povetkin was looking shot in that fight, and he was shot, to be honest, still managed to ice White. That was so funny, that was what was so funny about it, was White kind of ducked Povetkin a few years earlier, and then when that fight happened, it was supposed to have got him at the right time, it was supposed to be easy, and Povetkin still found the way to set up that shot and get the knockout. It was beautiful. It really was. The funny thing is, even though AJ got the most shit compared to when Fury and Dubois said stupid things about Usyk, at least he apologized, yeah. I think AJ was just emotional. Like, AJ was emotional on that night. He was like, he put his heart and soul into that rematch, and he didn't get the win, and he was just kind of throwing a tantrum about it. But, like, again, Fury and Dubois showed absolutely no humility whatsoever, especially Dubois. Like, Dubois, that guy has really rubbed me up the wrong way. Like, claiming he was robbed and that he wants his revenge. That guy needs to be bitch slapped. Somebody needs to shut that guy up. Dubois. Like, Usyk should never fight him again. Don't ever give that idiot a rematch. Um, as for Fury, he's just coping, claiming he thought he won. He knows he didn't win. He's just deluding himself. He's just flat out coping. That's all he's doing, and trying to maintain his reputation. Um, yeah, which is in tatters. Let's be honest about it. And that reputation is never coming back. And it was for the best, in my opinion. How do you react when Dillian beat Povetkin? Mate, I was see when Povetkin beat White in the first fight, I was so happy about that. I was like, I've still got a post-fight review up about it. I remember that night so clearly. The rematch, I didn't even watch it. I didn't even watch the rematch because I kind of expected it. Plus, I was busy that night too, so didn't bother with it. Povetkin had one of the hardest entrance songs in boxing, makes you wanna take over some shit. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're on about, that song, what is it, Nikolai Emlyn or something, the guy's called, that sings it. That was a badass entrance. It's like the kinda entrance song that makes you want to invade a foreign country, doesn't it? And like, colonize them and that. But yeah, yeah, it is a great entrance song, isn't it? Veckin was all wrong for Wilder. That was one of the worst ducks in heavyweight history. I'm still salty about that. I'm so sad that that fight never happened. That they didn't force Wilder to go to Russia to get devastatingly knocked out. Because we would have seen the American boxing establishment in tatters if that happened. They just got a heavyweight champion after all the years of waiting, and he was about to get viciously knocked out over in Russia. That would have been like the stuff of legends. We would have had so many memes, and we would have been able to clown the normies with that one. It would have been awesome, but so sad it never happened. We had to settle for Dillian White getting knocked out years later. We'll take that instead. Another idiotic dynasty that has now ended the LDBC. Oh yeah, the LDBC, they died with Deontay Wilder. They put all their eggs in one basket, and when that ship crumbled, they crumbled, and they've never been able to recover, and they never will. So it is what it is. Povetkin would have molested Wilder. Oh, that just sounds funny saying it out loud. Yeah, Nordic would get 1,000,000 subs if he ironed out Jake. Look, if I ironed out Jake Paul, I would never have to work a day in my life again. I wouldn't have to get my security license. I would just I could be a NEET the rest of my life. I could play video games. I could, like, buy an island somewhere and play video games the rest of my life, and never you won't see me again. You won't see me again, Cougs. I'll disappear. You won't see me again. I could just be a happy NEET the rest of my life. That'd be awesome. I need that one opportunity though. I need somebody to, get Jake Paul interested in a fight with me so I can just lay him out and make a fortune, man. That'd be awesome. The Veckin entrance song has been scientifically proven to increase your testosterone every time you listen to it. Mate, I feel like a flipping Russian VTS every time I listen to that song. I'm not even kidding. I think I could take on Mike Tyson in his prime if I had that as my entrance song. They once said that they were household names in the UK. I legitimately laughed so hard my organs hurt, What the problem is, what if your opponent hears the song? I don't know, like, what they need to do is give the opponent, like, a really stupid, corny song, or give the opponent, like, a Snoop Dogg song or something, some rap garbage, like, "We're in the club, and in the club, and in the club, and in the club." Give the opponent something like that, because 'cause that'll lower their testosterone when they're on the way out, and when I make my ring walk and it's, like, some badass Russian song, I'll be like, I'll have balls of steel. I'll be ready to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. It'll be like that. So yeah, just give them like a crappy like gay boy homo thug rap song, and give me like Povetkin's song, and I'll be all right. My testosterone will be sky high. I hope Zhang or Parker irons out Dubois or makes him quit. Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully Parker does it. I don't trust Parker though. I was gonna make a prediction video for that. I might still do it, but yeah, I don't trust Parker to get the job done. I don't think he kind of reminds me of Bivol or Pulev and guys like that. He can punch a bit, but doesn't really have the intelligence to know to stand back, create an opening, and then go for the knockout. Like actually shorten his punches and find the knockout blow. He just doesn't seem to have the finishing instinct that a lot of fighters have. So I could see him losing that fight, if truth be told. You know. The boy comes across like he's following Bricktop's orders. "You're on thin ice, son." Oh, crazy. Yeah, yeah, Usyk's entrance is quite cool, that dun 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 dun. That's quite a cool song. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, Povetkin's entrance song is like one in a million. That's like one of the best entrance songs ever. That Russian song he has. Povetkin White One was the weirdest energy I can remember. All week long, just something didn't sit right. Yeah, there was a disturbance in the force. You felt Dillian White's time had come, you know? Yeah, it's like an iconic final boss song now, yeah. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Like, imagine that. Imagine Povetkin's like the final boss. It's like do you know what it kinda reminds me of for some reason? You ever played Kingdom Hearts? Do you know in Kingdom Hearts where you get the Sephiroth boss battle and it introduces him, and it's like he's got like his own like I think he's like the only boss in that game that has his own unique song. That's what that kind of reminds me of. That reminds me of that boss battle. Where it does that song. It sounds like it goes Sephiroth, hot, hot, hot. Oh yeah, imagine the super chats if I did that. That'd be banging. The boys know who's the real daddy, and it's called Usyk. That's why he begged him. Yeah, he begged him to throw him a bone. You know. I love, to see Usyk Povetkin, pun not intended. There was a tiny bit of a chance of it happening back when Povetkin beat White. Yeah, they were in talks to fight, and I thought it was even set at one point, but I think at that stage, Usyk was too much for Povetkin. Like, Povetkin in his prime might have been able to win. I'd still favor Usyk on points, but Povetkin in his prime would have a puncher's chance, and he could win some rounds. Prime for prime, Povetkin beats Parker on points, I think. Don't think he'd stop him. I think he'd just outbox him and outwork him, win on points. Yeah, Jake Paul ducking Nordic Warrior. Someone get him to send me a contract. Yeah, yeah, I could take a dive against Jake Paul and make more money. Or I could pretend like I'm gonna take a dive, but then not do it, you know? Anthony Bellew will condition his calf muscles for the grueling challenge of Strictly Come Dancing and ensure he gets home safe to his wife and kids. Yeah, do you know what? Bellew would go on Strictly. He would. He would absolutely do that. I mean, he already went on I'm a Celebrity, so he would definitely go on Strictly. Oh yeah, Usyk's entrance compared to Fury. Fury's ring entrances are so gay and so weird and creepy. Like I really don't like them. But Usyk's entrances are like real alpha male stuff. They're badass. Yeah, Usyk versus Povetkin would have had like the best like ring walks, pure testosterone. Do you know that fight would have been like that would be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s fighting against Sylvester Stallone. It would be like Duke Nukem taking on Lo Wang or something. Like it would be like just pure testosterone, alpha male shit. That would be. It'd be pure badass, wouldn't it? Can imagine it. What would your ring entrance be song Nordic? No Russian songs though. Do you know I have actually thought about that. Look up look up the music Peacekeepers. Like go on Google, type in Peacekeepers, Spyro the Dragon. Listen to that tune and that would be my first pick for entrance music. Peacekeepers from that's the name of the track, Peacekeepers from Spyro the Dragon. Look that up. That'd be my first pick for entrance music. Um, what was that other song again? There's another song, a song called "We Believe" by Newsboys. I would consider having that as my entrance song. I think that'd be a good one as well. Trying to think of any more songs I would have as my entrance. That song, "Brothers Forever" from Scooby Doo, that'd be a good one. Yeah, I'll try to think. There's a few I would consider, but yeah, Peacekeepers is my that's my first choice for an entrance song without a doubt. I tell you what could be Shadow the Hedgehog's entrance song. That oh, what do you call it? End of a Bullet or whatever you call it. Do you like Do you like Braveheart? Yeah, yeah, I like Braveheart. I mean, I've got a lot of criticisms for that film. It's not perfect. I've talked about this on stream before. Like that film has a lot of issues, but I still like it. It's a very entertaining one. Joe Joyce's Big Juggernaut song is pretty bad. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty corny, isn't it? Yeah, big bummer note, big bummer note. You'll crucify me for this, but I don't mind Canelo's entrance either. At least it feels like a big time event. Yeah, I don't mind Canelo's entrance. I don't mind it at all. Jake Paul is never gonna get his just due. Hey, he's the face of boxing. Oh yeah, yeah, Vitali's entrance with the bell. That's a scary entrance, and that's a scary song, like to have as an entrance. Like the things that like I don't know the lyrics of that song I find quite scary. Like imagine Vitali Klitschko coming at you with that song, like you'd crap your pants, wouldn't you? You know, Nigel Benn's entrance against Steve Collins in that first fight was epic, just pure adrenaline, and Steve Collins' Mission Impossible entrance coming out to booze was great too. Do you know what I always did like? David Price when he came out to down 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 down. It's like a western shootout. That was always quite cool. I kind of like that, you know. They need to make a Snatch type movie with Frank Warren as a mob boss and Dubois being his henchman. Yeah, Dubois is like Gorgeous George or something, and that's quite funny. I've not watched that movie in ages. I need to watch it again. I like that movie. As much as I clown him, Dillian White had a good entrance. Jaws theme followed by AC/DC. Yeah, that was a good theme. Do you know what was a great entrance? Mikhail Kessler's entrance song by Volbeat. It was a song that he had actually made for him. Volbeat actually made a song for Kessler. It's a song called "A Warrior's Call." Check that song out. That was a badass entrance music. That was one of my favorite entrance songs. That was awesome. But yeah, for me, I definitely think it would be Peacekeepers. I love that tune. It's badass. But yeah, the Jaws theme is a good entrance, isn't it? Can you see all of me? Oh yeah, yeah. Shadow the Hedgehog's theme song. I am all of me. That's a badass song too. I am all of me. That's a great song. I like that song. Did Collins avoid Kawasaki or did he vacate the WBO title? No, I think Collins just wanted to retire. I think he'd made all his money and he couldn't really get up for that fight. So yeah, he just finished it. You know, he finished his career. Yeah, yeah. Fury's entrance is like some weird occult ritual where he's got like that song. It's like I'm crazy. You know what was it? Patsy Cline, crazy. He's got that, and he had bloody Pretty Woman. And I'm like, What's that all about?" I liked Fury's old entrance song. You know, he used to have that, and I still haven't found What I'm looking for. That was Fury's old entrance song for some of his early fights. And then he had that amazing song, when he fought Klitschko, that "I'm gonna have a little talk with Jesus when I get home tonight. I'm gonna tell him all about my troubles, and I know I'll make them right. And I'll ask him to forgive me for the things that I've done wrong. I'm gonna have a little talk with Jesus tonight when I get home." That was a great entrance song. I love that song. I never heard of that song before that fight. That actually became one of my favorite songs after that fight. If AJ was American, you reckon he'd give the LDBC interview? Yeah, he probably would, like Wilder, and just have him kiss his ass all the time, you know? Oh yeah, Chris Eubank coming out to "Simply the Best." Yeah, yeah, that's a good entrance song as well, isn't it? Simply the best, better than all the rest. Rolf had some man in makeup with horned pagans that was super. Yeah, is that Fury? Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? Imagine an entrance playing the All-Star song. One of the funniest was Shane McPhilbin. He had like a Spice Girls song or something as his entrance. I thought that was quite funny. That's from yeah, from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Clint Eastwood. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's what that tune is. That's what David Price had for his entrance music sometimes. Another chilling entrance was Fedor's in oh yeah, Fedor Emelianenko. Yeah, he was a great fighter and he had a good entrance too. Yeah, yeah, Fury's entrance at the Klitschko, that's the one I'm talking about. That was a great song. Yeah, yeah, sadly, that Fury's dead. You know, that based like right wing Christian Fury is long gone, sadly. I miss him. Wish he'd come back, you know. I liked Froch's entrance to Oasis Morning Glory. Yeah, didn't Froch have Welcome to the Jungle or something? As well? I'm sure he had that, didn't he? As well. Yeah, yeah, that Fury's long gone, sadly. George Grove's entrance was good. Spitfire by Prodigy. Calzaghe used that song against Lacey, yeah. If I was in World War II, they call me Spitfire. Yeah, I like that song as well. Yeah, that was a good entrance. I remember that. That Fury from 2015 looked like a motivated, hungry contender determined to change the complexion of boxing. Mate, that Fury from 2015 had a lot of potential to do a lot of great things in and out of boxing, but he just blew it all away, didn't he? I'm sick of talking about it. If truth be told, he sold us out. He sold out. That's what he did. You know, it's sad. It really is. It makes me sad when I think about it. You know. That Fury was based had Palestinian trunks for some reason. Yeah, David Hayes, "Ain't no stopping us now." Do you know what that song always reminds me of though? It like that song, it's a good entrance song, but it always reminds me of Shrek. Like like, it always reminds me of, you know, that scene in Shrek 2 where Donkey goes like, "Shrek and Donkey on another wild adventure. Ain't no stopping us now." Like, that's what that song always reminds me of every time I hear it. I just think of Shrek because of that one scene, you know? But it's a good song, I like it. Now that we mention it, is it really worrying how Fury's character has changed? Yeah, it is worrying. It's like he got, MK Ultra'd or something. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just sold out for the money and the fame. Happens to a lot of them, doesn't it, you know? Yeah, Fury's no longer funny. He had to kiss a lot of ass to get back into the industry, you know? I can't attribute Fury's change to just to greed alone. It seems like there's more. You know, I suspected, like I said, for a long time, I suspected he may have been MK Ultra'd or something, or something even worse. You know, some sort of torture, some sort of like brainwashing that we don't know about. He had that mental breakdown, and then he came back a completely different person. That's like the stuff of like spy movie stuff in it, man. It's scary when you think about it. You know. Yeah, Usyk made him break. Usyk butt broke Fury. He broke him mentally, you know, by just not by not allowing him to break him, you know? by standing up to him. Fury was like a big bully in the build up to those fights, and bullies don't like it when you hit them back. They don't like it when you stand up to them, and that's what Usyk did. God bless him. Fury changed during his 2-year layoff. Yeah, he came back a different person. He came back with a completely different ideology, a completely different attitude. It was scary how much he changed. Fury was always a cherry picker, liar, scumbag. Oh, he was always a cherry picker, no doubt about it. But he something about his ideology and his priorities in life changed after that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Fury's medicated on mental health pills. That could have changed him too. You know, that stuff really, it lowers your like cognitive function and all that. It makes you different, which is sad. Yeah, he changed a bit after the second Wilder fight too, but I think the biggest change for me happened after the Klitschko fight. He had that 2-year layoff and he just came back a different man. He came back completely broken, from what I remember. Something similar happened to Jordan Peterson, had a mental breakdown, hasn't been the same since he came back. Yeah. See, I'm always suspicious when somebody disappears and then comes back with a different ideology. It's like, what happened when you went away? Where did you go? What happened? Like, what's changed from now and then? You know? And again, we'll never know, will we? Like Jordan Peterson said a lot of the right things, but he's been kind of towing the line ever since coming back, and I don't know, man. I like Jordan Peterson, but I don't trust him. I wouldn't trust him as far as I can throw him. I'm gonna tell my grandchildren that I got a signed poster of Sonny Edwards versus Anthony Joshua. That's funny. Oh man, casual stuff there, isn't it? I've been saying for a long time that the hiatus from the second to third Wilder fights were detrimental to him. Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I don't think he was as different as what he was when he came back from the Klitschko fight. It's like he did, like Rolf says, he did a complete 180. You know, I remember a tweet Fury said he saw Huey whacking off. I don't know. I didn't see that. Is the old Fury still here? Well, that's the question. Can he be saved? Can he be redeemed? I hope so. I hope he becomes truly born again and repentant and trusts in his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I hope he does. Yeah, the legend of Sonny Edwards. I wouldn't trust anyone that supports IL. They've been saying Ulve and David Wood's mate. David Wood, that guy. Again, he is an obvious plan. That guy. I mean, look again. That's another guy. I put him in the same category as Peterson. I like David Wood. I'm subscribed to his channel. I watch his videos quite regularly, but I don't trust him as far as I can throw him because that guy had a mental breakdown, went to prison, and came out and just absolutely flourished. And see if you look at his backstory, he has a PhD from Fortnum University in Jesuit philosophy, and that should tell you everything you need to know about that guy and who's like pulling his strings and what his true agenda is. Again, he's clear controlled opposition, just like Steven Crowder is, just like Jordan Peterson is. It's But there's a lot of good you can take from these people, that they say a lot of right things, that they help to wake people up against cultural Marxism, put them on the right path, essentially. There's definitely a lot of good that can be done, but again, I don't trust these people as far as I can throw them because if they were really genuine, they wouldn't have been allowed to get to the level of notoriety that they got to. And yeah, David Wood, I've said for a long time that guy's a plant. He's controlled opposition, no doubt about it. Again, the guy has a PhD from Fortnum University in Jesuit philosophy. You see where his loyalties lie. I feel bad for Jordan Peterson. Apparently, he has brain damage from all the antidepressants he's been taking. Jordan Peterson's also recently been embarrassing himself. Like that interview he did with Richard Dawkins and that Alex O'Connor guy, like, he embarrassed himself in that interview. He did. He made himself look like a right arse, and I think he's a shell of what he once was, if truth be told. I think he's like, I don't know, man. Let me not talk about this. I don't wanna get too negative here, you know? Has anyone here come across a guy called Dustin Nemos? No, I don't know who that is, sorry. Don't know who he is. What's the best game you've played this year? This year, well, I actually just got done finishing, Time Splitters 2, which is a game I liked as a kid. I played that again this year, really enjoyed it. Gonna be reviewing the full trilogy probably the end of this month, and I played the first one as well, and I'm gonna play the third one again, Future Perfect, which is my favorite game in the series, because 'cause I'm gonna be reviewing the full trilogy. So yeah, that's, probably the best game I've played this year so far. Aside from Rayman 2, which is again, I played that recently and, did a walkthrough of it. So yeah, aside from that, Time Splitters 2. Yeah, I almost forgot I played Rayman 2 just a couple weeks back there. I almost forgot about that. Um, Thoughts on Tommy Robinson? He's a Zionist plant, the most obvious one ever, you know. I want to see David's videos. He said he would make something happen to Hatun. It would have ruined people psychologically. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He said he was just gonna continue to like make fun of Muhammad and all that, but yeah, you know that kind of that's just wagging the dog. That shit. That's all it is. I mean, look, we get it. How many more videos can you make ridiculing Muhammad to the point until it just becomes stale? You know, I get Muhammad deserves to be ridiculed. Don't get me wrong, but you would think it would get to the point where you would stop doing that and start preaching the gospel. Have you ever heard David Wood preach the gospel? That's always been my issue with David Wood. He claims to be a born again Christian. You know, he claims to be that Jesus Christ gave him a new heart, new desires, all that other stuff. But have you ever heard that man preach the gospel? That's my problem with him. He spends too much time focusing on Islam, just like Tommy Robinson used to do, and doesn't actually talk about the things that are most important, you know? That's my issue with him. Like, he's fine in small doses, but yeah, that's my issue, you know? Jordan Peterson controlled up. Yeah, yeah. Look, they're all controlled opposition. That's why they get to that level, you know? Yeah, yeah. Tommy's not even a grifter. He's a straight up spy. That guy's literally just a government spy. And he was used to infiltrate certain conservative movements in Britain, like the BNP, for example. Like, go and look at what Nick Griffin said about. Well, he didn't use Tommy Robinson's name specifically, or at least I don't think he did. But look at what he said about how the BNP was influenced by Zionism, right, or infiltrated by Zionism. He talked about how they were told, keep focusing your efforts on Islam, right, and mass immigration and all that other stuff, but drop your criticisms of the international banking system. You're not allowed to talk about that. And Tommy Robinson, former member of BNP, like put two and two together. He was one of the infiltrators that was put in there to infiltrate that. Um, you know, to infiltrate that movement. You know, the knockout of the year 2024, Adrian Gar yeah, that was a good one, Adrian Garnu. That, Moses Itauma knockout, I know it was set up by a rabbit punch, but, like, the finishing shot was good. Um, what else was there this year, knockout? The, Fraser Clarke getting knocked out by, yeah, yeah, the Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clarke, that's gotta be up there. That one was brutal. That was absolutely brutal, that one. Yeah, Jordan Peterson talks a lot without saying much. Yeah, I see what you mean there. Oh, yeah, yeah, the Costa Zoo versus Judah KO, where he drops him with the right hand, he gets up and does the chicken dance and goes back down. That was funny. Malcolm X was a commie and a CIA plant, in my opinion. Yeah, Nick Griffin is based. I like Nick Griffin. He's one of the genuine, like, actual like true conservative, someone who isn't a plant. I stand by him. That guy's awesome. He really is, you know, and that's why he's never been like officially banned, but he's kind of been shadow banned. You know, you never hear about Nick Griffin. You'll never have a follower because the algorithms on the internet just bury his content, you know. But yeah, that guy is based. He is. He was the last genuine politician in the UK, I think, you know. Judah embarrassed himself that night. Oh, that was pathetic. The way Judah attacked the referee and threw a stool. He should have been banned from boxing for that, or suspended for a couple of years at least, in my opinion, you know? Yeah, yeah. Nothing beats AJ getting his desserts as far as knockout of the year. That was quite brutal too. The the boy AJ. That might even be knockout of the year, come to think of it. I actually forgot about that there. But yeah, that was a brutal knockout. So yeah, on that note, getting quite tired now. I'm actually working in the morning, so I'm up early, so might have a early night tonight. And yeah, I might gonna wrap this one up now. Thanks a lot, guys. I've had fun. God bless each and every one of you, and yeah, maybe we'll get another stream this month, and hopefully a couple of videos too. So yeah, thanks for watching, and God bless.